the bowels of One Half Radio Plaza at Life Media Studios.
Hello, folks. Welcome back to Real Country Radio.
Congratulations, Detroit. You can be thoroughly ashamed of yourself. The homicide toll has reached a nice even 750. Details on the latest leveling from Police Sergeant.
Coming up now, we're going to start off the set with...
In the morning.
The Hitler's Tigers could use this guy's talent.
Have you had time to get ready?
I don't waste any time getting ready. I stay ready.
Good evening and welcome to what I believe is episode number 118 for Sidetrack. We're joined tonight by Andrew and Brad Hartman. And I do apologize momentarily where my attentions are distracted because I did see when I kicked it live that there was a warning that this may not be going to YouTube. And I know some of you watched there, so I'm going to verify and just check. So you gentlemen,
I think that was the other stream.
Oh, is it? Okay.
So the one with the
it's
one that actually has our
so,
logo. Yeah, yeah.
I think we're okay.
So
I just want to verify.
Anyway, technical BS.
Yeah. Nothing like doing a production meeting to start the freaking show.
Exactly.
You think we've been doing this long, we would freaking test, right? Nope, not at all.
Well, sort of.
Yeah.
So
it's like tractor pulling. There's no minute like the last minute, you know.
Uh-huh.
Bingo. So how are the Haubstadt Hustlers?
What? Damp. Damper than we would like for planting condition.
No,
That's a
that
fact.
happens. That happens. How much rain have you guys gotten over the past week?
Depending on where you're at, heck, last week alone we were below average up going into April, and then once it hit April 1st, we've gotten we're almost back to our annual average at this point. I mean, I think we've gotten 9 inches since April 1st.
Holy moly.
In spots. I was reading something this morning. I can't remember exactly, but it was something along those lines.
Wow.
Yeah, we got 1.5 inches coming in sideways last Friday. We've had some storms come through. Heck, we have a neighbor just up the hill that we had some tornadoes that went literally like an 1/8 mile from the farm. We have no damage, but they lost shop, grain bins, all of it. We got very fortunate. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. It sucks for those guys, though.
Yeah.
I know. I think Adam Kester said that he or his neighbors or a guy who works at the shop or somebody
neighbor
close to him
had a tree go in his house. Yeah.
Well, then I'm assuming Joe and Brian, I think they're relatives of his, lost the whole farm.
Yeah.
They were pretty bad.
Yeah. And then, over in St. Wendell, thankfully, there was I know for a fact there's no casualties. I don't think there was even any serious injuries, but a lot of homes, a lot of pole barns and stuff. Most of the home damage was majority if a tree landed on it.
Ah, okay.
Maybe been a busy spring for that kind of stuff this year, and unfortunately, there's more of it going on tonight even.
Yeah. Yeah. Ground zero right there.
Yeah.
Russ is out in eastern Nebraska, and
Well, I see videos out there where they'll be planting corn. They'll be like, "Yeah, we're planting corn here," and look over, but there's a tornado over there. The neighbor had to get out of the way, and they just let it pass through and keep going.
Yeah,
what do you expect? They got stuff to do.
It's a rough night tonight in Meisinger's hometown. Goodland, Kansas is getting lit up right now.
Oh, really?
We like to live on the edge out here in the Midwest. Just saying.
Well, hey, if it's over there and it's a mile over there, it ain't necessarily going to come over quick.
Yeah, you can make another round. It's okay.
Yep. Shift up a gear.
Yeah.
So
around here, it always happens at night, so you can't see it coming. Got to keep it exciting.
You gotta be the last one to turn the lights on. You can see better if you don't have the lights on. Don't you know that?
Yeah. Yeah, we've had. I mean, we've all. I think all of us have had our fair share of it. Iowa got picked on a little bit last week, and if you go out to YouTube, there's a video from one of the storm chasers where he's driving towards this funnel, and suddenly, here comes a grain bin, cartwheeling across the road. He dove into the parking lot, and he's like, guys, F this. I'm out. Get out. Don't follow me. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and this is an experienced storm chaser guy.
You are not kidding, sir. I was out in North Carolina last weekend at Rockingham Dragway, and that place has been open 55 years. And Friday, they said that's the first time hail has ever shut down racing there, ever.
What
This
about
is how we roll out in. This is how we roll west of the river.
So I remember
East of the river too. The thing is, we got so many trees that by the time it see it, it's too late.
Yeah.
I remember there was an old boy down in Missouri. I'm pretty close to the Missouri border, and there's an old boy. There was a tornado going through, and he was talking about it, and he said, yeah, my wife was yelling at me to go to the basement. He says, I was just standing at the kitchen sink watching stuff, and he says, pretty soon I see a swing set go by. He goes, I know for goddamn sure I don't have a neighbor within 10 miles from a swing set. So I joined her in the basement.
Nice.
So
Well, it wasn't a tornado, but it was straight line winds. But March of 22 is the reason this building's here. I had a smaller pole barn that came with the house, and
That's right. I remember hearing about that.
straight line winds blew the bottom of the overhead door in, and once the air got in, no place to go, it lifted the roof right off of it. My neighbor actually got it on video somehow.
Ha!
The coup de grace.
Yeah, exactly. Go
Kind of fortunate that other building wasn't really tall enough to really work on tractors. So when we replaced it, we built something more user
That
friendly.
was.
Yeah.
Worked
Yeah.
out.
Speaking of which, everybody's going to ask, so why don't you just get it out of the way now? Pan the camera over. Everybody wants to see the tractor, even if it's in pieces.
It ain't much to look at. It's missing wheels and such.
Yeah, but there's piping and there's engine-y things and
Ooh, shiny.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
It could be shinier.
It could be, yeah. It ain't.
It's still farm shop.
It's very much on par for what we're used to.
Adam,
Well-
prettiest tractor I've seen all day.
Well, that leads. I mean, I think that's probably about as good a place as any to jump off. When did the addiction start, guys? Start wherever you want. With you, with Dad, with
Started with Ronnie. Kind of.
Do you want where did it all start, or where did Addicted Motorsports start?
no. Start where it all started
Where
because
it
I
all
know some of that
started?
backstory and that's fun.
Yeah.
That'd be Ronnie.
So we had a neighbor. Pretty all day. I don't know about that, but anyway, we had a neighbor that, and some I don't know if any local people watch this or not. He had a brother that they were just always kind of bickering with each other, this, that, and the other. This would have been back in, I'm going to say the late 70s, because it was our 1066 and our 10's a 72, 73, and it was a few years old. So it was probably like 76-ish. So we had a neighbor that had a couple hot farm stock, or I wouldn't even call it farm stock. They were just, farm pull tractors back in the day. So Minneapolis Molines, he had two of them. And he had them hopped up, and they ran real good. And the story we have always been told is that his brother came over and was originally talking to my grandpa and was like, Harold, you've got to come take your tractor over here. I don't care if you get third to last, as long as those two Molines are second and first to last. He just wanted his brother to get beat. I don't know why. I don't know the lore there, but he just wanted his brother to get beat. So Poppy finally looked at Dad, which Dad would have been about 10, 11 years old at the time. And Uncle Curtis would have been, he was 6 years older than Dad, so he'd have been about 17. He said, go and hook the 1066. I don't know what it was hooked to at the time. Would have been middle of summer. And clean it up. We're going to take a tractor pull. Okay, so they go and hook it. They start washing it and everything. And all of a sudden, Dad said he looked over and he saw Curtis grabbing a 10-millimeter wrench and a flat blade screwdriver. He said, Curtis, what are you doing? He said, no, just shut up and don't worry about it. Well, for people that don't know, a 10 mil and a flat blade screwdriver are what you use to turn up most injection pumps. I heard he gave it two full rounds of fuel. Poppy took that thing to the local county fair, and I can't remember if it was this story or not, but I think he about TA'd it where the Molines spun out and put about 10, 15 feet on them. And Poppy was just grinning from ear to ear. And I think it was like a week or two later, they were up at the local tavern, literally just a mile and a half up the road. And he was going on. Yep, farm tractor right out of the field, just 2 gears lower than a plow wheel. That's all it was. This, that, and the other. Dad and Curtis were snickering in the corner and finally came over and sat down and said, all right, doofuses, what'd you two do? And I really don't know if they'd went out there and got last place, or if Curtis wouldn't have. I don't even know where Curtis learned to turn fuel pumps up, because that 10 was our first diesel tractor on the farm. So I don't even know how he knew to do that, or who he talked to, or what the deal was. But
Was it the first diesel or first new diesel? When did we get the WD?
they bought that later off some auction just because they thought it was neat.
Okay.
And of course, they didn't have YouTube to go look that up back then either.
No. And contrary to what everybody wants to think, on a rotary pump, you screw the screw out, not in.
Mm-hmm.
So factory 10 is factory 10 is 125 horsepower. Dad said on a full factory setup, they always figured a round of fuel was 25 horse, so it was maybe 170 horse-ish. Probably not even quite.
Mm-hmm. Hard to believe where technology's gotten this.
Yeah. And then, I don't know, I think they just never quit after that. They won one time and they wanted more.
And that's how we get to the name.
And that was Grandpa, right?
That was
Grandpa.
Okay.
Then went from just doing that to going everywhere. And I heard, they used to really work on those tractors. I mean, our county fair used to have an intermission. And I don't remember which way they would go, but they'd take 3 tractors over, and they'd spend like a week before the fair getting the tractors ready to go. And at one time, they had a 10, a 9, a 686, and they'd have them weighted up, dualed up, as heavy as you could get them, go pull in the morning or till noon. During intermission, they'd haul them home, take all the weight back off, and haul back. And
take the duals off, too.
Take the duals and everything off, take all the weight off, and go pull again.
Wow.
Dad talked about back in the day, it'd be nothing for them to sling 7,000 pounds of weight in a night.
Oof.
Mm-hmm.
That makes my back hurt just thinking about it.
Mm-hmm. Just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little bit.
All that heavy weight slinging was done by the time we really got to be part of it.
Yeah.
It was a blessing, I'm sure. From your back, thanks you.
I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
So when did okay, so that was all like farm stock days, right?
Yep. I would even call it just farm pulling. I mean, we're talking
farm pulling.
Local fairs
Local
where, like,
fairs.
if you didn't farm in the county, you couldn't pull at the county fair.
Got it. Okay.
Like that was a pretty common rule around here.
Interesting. I'd never heard
That's
that.
why Dad was so excited when they picked up 40 acres in Posey County. Oh my God, they can go pull at the Posey County Fair.
Nice. So from farm pulling in the mid 80s, late 80s?
Mid, late,
All
even early 90s.
yeah, all through the 80s and into the 90s. Yeah.
When did we go from pricking the needle under the skin to mainlining?
So that same neighbor got Dad into a 966. He went out and did some running around, and Dad fire ringed a 966, which is still running around. Someone's got a fire ring 436 and doesn't know it.
414. I looked that up today. I thought it was
4, okay.
Yeah, it's a 414 factory in a 966. Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway,
So if anybody out there has a 966, they've taken the head off and it had some copper fire rings, I want to buy it.
we don't know where it's
I
at.
want to buy it.
But
Jason,
anyway,
Jason Weir, you're watching. You see lots of tractors. If you see that, give those boys a holler, would you?
so,
And by the way, apologies, Jason. I know I still owe you a phone call.
so that's when Dad was farm stock pulling, and he got to going around. He went to 2 pulls. Story I was told, 2 pulls in the same day. He went somewhere. Was it Miller Tree Farm or Cissna Park?
He went to Cissna Park, Illinois for a noon session.
For a noon session, and I can't remember which way it went, but he got
Illinois,
he got waxed because he wasn't hot
They were
enough. Then he came back over to Indiana for the second pull, and he got kicked out because he was too hot. And he said, "Screw this! I'm joining something with some rules." and he actually helped start the 510 hot farm class here in Southern Indiana. And he was only in that class for half a year.
Yeah, it was a 500 at the time.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, and there was a lot in between there. They bought hot pumps for the farm tractors, and like the 1066 to this day, it has an M&W turbo kit and 5488 injectors, and they had a hopped up pump they would put on in the summers. But yeah, he said he wanted something with rules, and that was where he started looking for something that was a little more sanctioned.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys use that 10 for now? You ever take it out and
pulls a roller tractor at the fair, or pulls a wheel roller at the fair? It needs a turbo. The turbo seals went out, so it didn't last year. But
he's run it quite a bit over there.
Auger tractor sometimes.
I suspect you probably have a turbo or 7.
None that would go on it.
Yeah, that's true.
None that it would spin.
Yeah,
We know some good pipe fitters out there that could make something happen.
Mm-hmm.
I'll send our last guest from the show over. He'll fix you right up.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. So once we went into sanction pulling, he was kind of on the ground floor of the 510 hot farm class.
Yes, and Andrew said back then it was 500. I don't know when they went from 5 to 510.
It was like 500 and but if it came factory bigger than that, because I know the 504 cases were allowed. Yep. And the 530, there was one guy that pulled a 531 big block deer and a bunch of stuff. It was very, I can't remember all the things. There's people around we could ask about it.
Mm-hmm.
But Dad pulled that for half a season. And when he built the motor that went in that tractor, that first 466, he actually went up to Tim Engler. We actually farm right across the highway from Tim. We live about 25 minutes away.
Mm-hmm.
And so Dad went up to Tim Engler and said, Tim, would you help me build a motor? And Tim goes, nope, but I know a guy that will. And he gave him Dennis Schnicker's phone number. And so Dad called Dennis, and they put together a 466, and he put that in that he actually put it in that 966 for a year and farm pulled it. And then he put that guy's 414 back in, gave the neighbor his tractor back, bought a broken half 1256 out of Crossville, Illinois, and that became he bought the 1066 sheet metal as original on Dad's tractor, came off Tom and Trent Boyd's Pro Stock, the bite and binder. Bought sheet metal from them, put it all together, went hot farm pulling, and pooched some of them old photos with no cage on it, on the skinny tires. Yeah, that I sent you. That would be that tractor. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that would have been about 99. Would have had to been 99. Was the only year he pulled with 20.8s. Yeah, and no cage. Mm-hmm. And so he went out, and I don't know how it ended up happening, but put too big of gears in it. The thing wouldn't live. I think the one time he actually got the tractor to light, he won. But he would always, chooch the turbo out 20 feet back from everybody. And so he called Dennis up and said, Dennis, got a problem. He said, well, what's that? He goes, well, I got too big of gears. I can't hack it. And Dennis goes, well, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's me in the bottom corner of that. I'm not totally sure, but I think it is. But that's anyway, cool. I'd have been about 3.
Is that at the Vanderbilt County Fair?
No.
You sure?
Before they built the grandstands, would have had to have been.
Maybe before they put the roof over top of it.
That's possible.
Because there's that announcer stand up there. In that corner,
yeah, but it's not in the corner. There's bleachers on both sides.
Okay. I thought that's Henryville behind it.
I don't know where that photo's at. But yeah, so Dad called Dennis, and Dennis got a problem. Said, I can't hack these gears. I keep getting underneath the turbo. And Dennis said, you never gear down. You just build more power. I got what you need. So Dad got in the truck, drove over to Hoyleton, Illinois, got out of the truck and said, all right, Dennis, what do you got for me? He goes, I got a 540 long block right here. Dad looked at him and said, I pull in a 466 or like a 500 cube class. Dennis, what am I going to do with this? He goes, well, I guess you're super farm now. So Dad loaded it up and brought it home. He went to the Indiana Super Farm meeting and stood up and said, do you guys care if I pull with 20.8 radials in the Super Farm class? And they said, oh, sure, if you want to, that's fine. Well, I guess he won one hook that year, and suddenly radials weren't allowed no more. Didn't matter how wide they were.
And that was like back at that time, like radials were at a pulling track were like rare as a hen's tooth. I mean, nobody was doing that.
Mm-hmm.
In the 20.8, the BFG radials were pretty common.
Were they?
Yeah.
I guess I'm going, geographic context in my area, we pretty much have no classes that ran 20.8, so maybe that's why I didn't see them.
Okay, that could be. But yeah, Jason, you probably would remember a lot of that. But yeah, the 20.8 radials, I mean, heck, to this day, if somebody has a good set of 20.8 BFGs sitting around, them farm stock guys will command high dollar for them up.
We don't even have a set anymore. We used to have a set in the barn. We sold it
We sold it
3 or 4 years ago
to a guy that I actually graduated high school with. Yeah, that's building up a farm stock tractor. Yeah, or has a farm stock tractor.
It took a while for Dad to let go of those.
Yeah, he won a lot of pulls on them 20.8s.
So when did
No, those
you
were
said that-
18.430.
No, I'm pretty sure they're. You might be right.
I think those were 18.4 radials. I'm sorry. Anyway, go ahead.
So that photo, you were in it theoretically. That was you.
I think that was me. Yeah, I mean, I'd have been about 2 years old, but yeah.
So
To me, that kid, I have a 2-year-old now, and that looks about the size of the head of my 2-year-old. So I don't think it would be Brad. And I'm assuming this is my mom taking the photo. So again, I have to assume it's one of us. Brad would have been 7 or 8 at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So then, where's you guys grew up at the track, and I know Charles. I think there's there's at least one photo of the two of them walking. I think away from the camera.
Yes.
But
Is it the one up?
yeah, that one. This one, obviously, you 14, 15-ish.
Were you driving at that point? Were you 16?
Yeah, I think I can picture where that picture was taken. I think it was taken by my sister in Salem, Indiana.
It was. Yeah, I was in middle school there, so I'd have been about 12. So you'd have been about 18 there.
Well, we have those shirts. Those shirts, we didn't make those until we went to Louisville, correct?
No, you're thinking of the red ones. That was in 07.
So then, but those red ones were before that then.
Yeah.
So that was even later than that. So yeah, I was obviously driving by then.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm thinking I could have been 17, 18.
Yeah.
Andrew would have been about 12.
Okay, so
There was a lot of pulling before that picture ever took place.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I kind of figured that. What was it? When did you guys start pulling? Was it?
I started pulling up whenever I could turn 16, 2008, I believe.
Do you mean start driving or started like really going?
Start driving. Like when was the first time you hooked?
First
farm
time I
pulling or
hooked. I wish we had a photo of it.
We do somewhere.
I wore Dad's fire suit. If anyone knew Dad and knew me, we were not the same size.
No.
And it looked like I had a belt on the outside of my fire suit, but we were up at Boswell, Indiana.
We drive past every time I go get tires.
And we just went for a brush hook. And Dad wouldn't let me pull in competition, but he let me do a test pass afterwards. And I put his suit on. I didn't have my own suit yet. And I made a pass, and I remember I was asking Dad 20 questions on how to let the clutch out. That's how nervous I was. And I made a decent pass, and then Dad said, okay, you can make a pass. Now I'll buy you a fire suit. So then I got my fire suit, and then the first time I hooked the tractor in competition was Otwell, Indiana, and I won. And Dad tried to talk me into retiring undefeated, but he couldn't do it. I said, I won once, I can do it again.
Hey, Pooch, there's a photo. There's another photo of me, Brad, and Dad standing by a sled. I think that's that night.
All right, let me find.
I think I got a trophy from that.
We were standing at the starting line.
Oh, yeah?
There you go. It's pretty blurry.
That's a good possibility.
Yeah, that was the little one up front. It was a neighbor boy that was up there watching. Then Dad's in the back, and then I'm to the right of Dad or to his left if you're looking at the photo. And that's Brad. I think that was that night. I think he won that night at Otwell, Indiana.
And that was Super Farm days, right?
Oh yeah,
Yes, that was super.
yeah,
Farm.
yeah,
Okay.
My
Yeah.
brother never drove the super farm.
yeah. I never got to drive it.
I was gonna ask that.
We went, so Dad pulled Hot Farm in '99 for half a season, and the second half of the season with Super Farm. We were Super Farm all the way through. I mean, just kind of kept stepping it up within the Super Farm class. Built his first 640 in 2006. Dynoed it that winter. We got third in ITPA points in 07. And 2008 was the first time we ever pulled the farm show. We pulled Farm Show Super Farm 2008, 2009. We missed 10, and then Brad pulled 11 and 12.
I pulled 11 with a broken leg on my birthday.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a lovely experience.
It was. It was.
But 2012 Farm Show was the last pass of the Super Farm. We were actually sitting by eating before the pull or whatever at one of the little food booths there near Broadbent when Dad looked at me and Brad and was like, well, I made a phone call and I ordered a 4.1 turbocharger. Cool.
I'm like, don't tempt me with more horsepower.
Yeah.
Right.
So we went, I always remember because it was summer for my freshman year. So we went 4-1 in 2012, got out about midway through the summer. And then I made my first hook here at Princeton, Indiana when I was 15 at an Ohio River Valley hook. It was basically a brush deal. We were trying to kind of see if we could do, there was a guy with a light pro, and we were kind of dabbling in that 9,000 pound mixed class. We were trying to see if we could make it work. And it obviously would have IPLs doing it. We just didn't have enough support down here in Southern Indiana for it. But I talked Dad to let me drive at 15 because it was an Ohio River Valley hook. And I remember Darlages were there. I don't know where that was at. Oh, that was a long time ago because there's no cooler box on the front.
Darlage, I think, was the only other 4-1 that was there. A couple of hot farms joined in to help as a class filler.
And then the light pros, the blue light pros.
Oh, yeah, Marvin had his.
Yeah, Marvin's light pro. That was Henry, Illinois. That would have been sometime around 2005. If you notice the box, that is literally an igloo cooler that Dad built a diamond plate enclosure to go around it. And that was our first ice water box for our intercooler.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. We still have those aluminum fenders in the shop down there. The rest of that sheet metal, I don't know where it went. I actually made a text to a guy this morning to ask, and he couldn't remember where they sold it to. But no, so yeah, 2015, I remember I was freaking out. Darla just asked me if I ever drove the tractor to Super Farm. I was like, no, this is my first time. I remember Dad coming up to me about 20 minutes before pull time, and he goes, hey, it's going to be loud. I was like, I know. And he's like, no, it's going to be really loud. And I was like, Dad, I know it's going to be loud. I've been around tractor pull before. He's like, okay. And he was like, don't get excited and break my throttle. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, don't get excited and push too hard and break my throttle. Okay. And he said, I left the front end heavy. It should just dribble, stay pretty well planted all the way down the track. No big deal. Little did we know, Jeff Hyatt, that old AgriGold sled, was the first time we'd ever experienced somebody putting a block between the frame rails on the hitch. So I revved that thing up, no tack. We went years without having a tack for some odd reason. We just never took time to do it. And I remember Brad describing to me how the smoke will change consistency. And he goes, when you see that smoke get fine, so it's time to go. So I rev it up, see the smoke get fine. I was like, all right, time to go. Come out of the clutch. Thing immediately comes up, hits the wheelie bars twice, and darts right. And second nature, I don't know if it was bred to me or what. I just kind of reached down, hit that left brake, brought her around, made a straight pass, got all the way to the end, spun in, backed out. But okay, we didn't wreck. We're doing good. And Brad comes out there, shut it off. And I'm like, what the crap's going on? Pulling every lever to shut it down. And I did successfully break a billet crankshaft that night.
Nice work out of you.
It was 7 years old, but it was on its last leg. Yeah, broke it right in the front, the first flat going to the first rod journal, but everything stayed in time. It was fine. We drug it off the side, pulled the side panel off, and Dad hit the key, and we watched the harmonic balancer go like that. And we were like, ooh, that's not good.
The funny thing about that crank, we think it was actually broke for like 3 years because we were having some timing gear trouble. Couldn't figure out where it was coming from. And because every time we go to the dyno, Dad pulled the front cover. And 2 years in a row, we went up to Kevin Engelking's with the motor in a bushel basket. Went up with Josh. Josh put dynoed the first day, while me and Dad put his motor together in Eagle King's shop and then dynoed because we were, procrastinating and didn't do our homework and waited till the last minute. But when that crank broke, we noticed that there was a shiny spot where it had broke, or a shiny spot didn't look like a fresh brake, and we figured that crank had to have been flexing for 3 years before it finally gave up.
Wow.
I don't think one will last that long anymore.
No.
Where did that crankshaft come from?
Southern Illinois. No, that was Cornet.
Yeah. That was Cornet crank.
Yeah.
I think Bryce has his Cornet's crank machine now, right?
Yeah, because Rodney used to get cranks from Cornet, and then he went to Southern Illinois. Because Dad called Rodney up and told him what happened, and Rodney was joking with Dad and was like, "Well, I told Andrew any parts he breaks, I give him commission on." Still ain't seen that check.
Yeah.
And that was our first trips down the track.
So where'd you end up finishing in that class?
I think I got second behind Darledge.
Yeah, I think Darledge won. Andrew was second. Then there's 2 light pros. Then we had the hot farm tractors, which I actually got to run a neighbor's hot farm that night. Why he let me run it in that class, I don't really know. But I wasn't going to turn down the opportunity to drive a tractor. So
Hard to argue with that.
I do remember when I drove that hot farm after driving that 401 a couple of times, I bottomed the throttle. Now, granted, he also said that he thought his pump was acting up. But I bottomed the throttle, and I didn't see any smoke. And I was like, this is it? Come on. I was looking for more.
I remember him telling
I've
me that.
only ever said no to a drive one time, and the night that I did, the owner broke the hitch out of it. And I was like, I made the right choice.
Yeah, I remember when he got off that thing. I said, "So what's it like driving a hot farm?" And he goes, "Yeah, I was winding up, and all of a sudden the throttle got real stiff, and I kept pushing and pushing and pushing. I was like, oh crap, this is it." And it's like, okay. Them hot farms are a lot hotter now than they were then. Man, back in that would have been 2013,
13. 12 is whenever we went. It was the next year whenever you were.
Had to be 13 because I was 15 years old.
Well, I said 13. 12 is whenever we converted it. You did it the next year.
Or no, it had to be 14. It don't matter.
Typical brothers arguing, right?
Mm-hmm. It's okay. That happens. Guys, Jacob Ole wants to know what your favorite pass was so far.
That's true. I've had a few of them. Honestly, for me, your previous pass at Evansville was kind of impressive.
I don't know who's pulling in right now.
It's Rodney. He's got your commission check.
There we go. I got a feeling he's in a corn planter right now.
I think you're probably right. He's probably been in one for like 3 days.
Oh, yeah. Favorite pass? Oh, I don't know. For me, last year at Vandenberg was pretty satisfying.
Yeah, for you. For me, honestly, I've been on a lot of good ones. One that kind of sticks out for me would be went to Fayette, Missouri for my girlfriend at the time. Yeah, his girlfriend at the time. Fiance now. She had her hometown fair is Fayette, Missouri. They had that power pool out there.
Yep.
And we were trying Mitas tires, and we were honestly struggling. We weren't happy with them. I went up to Gallups, and Gallups asked me what I thought of them, and I told them I was taking them off because we went to Pinckneyville the night before, went from Pinckneyville to straight to Fayette, and I wasn't happy. I told them, I said, I get home, I'm taking these things off. I can't make them work.
I just stay home because my wife and I had a wedding to go to, so I wasn't even out there.
Yeah, I had a buddy of mine, a neighbor, went along with us, and I go out there, and first time I'd ever pulled a Fayette, it was in front of girlfriend's hometown pool, so a lot of pressure. I really wanted to do good, and I let off the clutch, and it set me out back in the seat, and I put 10 foot on the not quite 10, at least 7-8 feet on the whole class, and it was one of those set me back. And the moment just the whole atmosphere while I was there and everything just kind of topped it all off. And then after that night, we never took the tires off. And the next time it lost was whenever it stuck a plunger at Illinois State Fair.
How long ago was that?
Well, it was this year.
Yeah, that was last summer.
That was probably one of my favorite passes. I've been on a fair amount of good passes, so trying to pick one in particular, for me, it'd be one that has more sentiment to it, which would be like that for me, or like Andrew's pass at Evansville. It definitely was not Louisville of 22.
It was up until the end.
None of us were going to bring that up, but
It was going so well right until
Somebody in
it
the comments.
right until it wasn't.
Yeah, that was not ideal.
Yeah. So what's the story? Do we just? I mean, are you running a museum now and you charge an admission at the door and people just come in to look at the tractor?
We saw the lights on and drove by. Stopped in.
That's the admission fee. You just got to grab something out of the fridge and bring it to them. That's all it is.
Here's you realize you walked through a live podcast. They saw you all on the internet. Everybody on the internet saw you. You're famous.
You might as well introduce yourself at this point because the people want to know.
Hey, this
Get
is
the
the
guy
guy
a
that
chair and a
knows
beer.
stories you were telling. You know some of the good stories about Dad back in the
We would love to have.
And Charles Pooch and Cody Vino.
doing a tractor pulling podcast.
Yeah.
We're live on Facebook.
And YouTube and a whole bunch of places.
Everywhere.
and it will soon in audio format live forever on Spotify, iTunes.
That's right.
Yeah.
Can somebody get Buck a chair and have him sit down?
He's got a
He's
chair
got
right
one
here.
over
Just
here.
not sitting in.
Well, pull it in there. It's been a coon's age since I've seen him.
I'm assuming Hornville Tavern.
Yes.
We don't let just anybody walk in and start looking at it.
Adam would probably do it too.
Buck had to go answer it to let him in.
Yeah.
Adam would not
Nice.
only probably do it, but you'd at least recognize him.
Nice.
As long as you promise to leave the camera at home, you'll be fine. Just leave the camera at home and bring the wife. That's all you got to ask for.
Everyone brings their phone. Their phones all got cameras.
Yeah, but who knows? Maybe, I mean, you could turn the tables on him and have him get in the seat and make tractor noises. And you can catch that on video.
You always got to have good dirt on everybody.
Absolutely.
100%. That's why we all have long lenses.
Yep.
So we've got questions coming in. We're starting to come in that we haven't popped on the screen yet. But Angie Venata wants to know what's your favorite hook? And I'm presuming that she means like event, like favorite place to compete. And that was one of the questions that I was going to ask you as well.
Evansville, Indiana.
I'm a little biased. Evansville's by far my favorite just because it's our hometown pool. If you wanted to take that one out, honestly, we didn't go as often as I would like, but one of my favorites was always Pickneyville, Illinois for the Thresherman pool. That was always a fun one for me.
Pickneyville, Illinois is neat.
We go to Hillsboro, Wisconsin. That's always a lot of fun because for us, it was one of the few 2-day hooks that we get to go to. So you got to go up there, hang out with pullers. Usually when we go pull, you didn't go to many 2-day hooks. You go, you pull, and you get out of there. You head home and
Load up and drag it home.
Yeah, and Dad would always want to drive at night, try and avoid cops because we might have been on farm plates.
We're on the internet. Yeah.
It'll be all right. We're not on farm plates anymore.
Statute of limitations is expired.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There you go.
I always liked, talking about Otwell earlier, I always liked Otwell. I don't know why. It was a couple counties over, but still close to home. And I don't know, you pulled that old Otwell sled, and it was always on 4th of July. And so they'd have a big fireworks show. And I don't know, just growing up as a kid, I always liked going to Otwell.
That was always fun. That'd always be nice for me because it was my first win.
Yeah.
First time I drove in competition.
Waynesburg, Pennsylvania was cool. We went there a couple years, the Champion Store Super Farm.
And that's not even the farthest. I think Hillsboro, Wisconsin's the farthest we've been to pull, ain't it?
Rockwell, Iowa.
Yeah, Rockwell, Iowa is probably farther.
Rockwell was neat.
Rockwell, that one was a fun one. That was the first time Andrew got to see diesel supers run outdoors.
Yep.
That's correct. And that was the same year that Steve Burge laid down a 400-foot pass
and backed out.
That pass, oh my goodness.
That pass, that was the first time he watched Diesel Supers outdoors.
Oh, boy. And to celebrate, you decided you were going to try and burn the tractor to the ground. Nice work.
Yeah.
You didn't think I forgot about that.
That actually happened before that.
Okay.
The night before, and we were gonna go to that farm land up there, but we spent all day cleaning the tractor to make sure it was good because dummy me didn't tighten the oil filter well enough. I think I had threw the oil filter on, kind of gave it a snug spin, but I didn't get a wrench on it to really tighten it, and the O-ring pushed out. So what happens when you bounce back and forth between two tractors and you forget stuff.
That's true. I wish you guys had. I wish it hadn't happened. It really would have been. You really would have enjoyed yourself at Farmall Land. That was such a neat place.
I hated that we couldn't make it. I really do, because we all knew that it was going to be gone at the end of that year or in a few months or something like that.
I wish I could have witnessed. Justin Wagler went over to check it out. He said it was really neat, and they got the end. And Ryan, what was the old guy's name that owned it?
Jerry Mez.
Yeah. He said Jerry was sitting there, and a bunch of the pullers were talking to him, and he was really into it and everything. He was like, "Oh man, this is really neat." And all of a sudden, Justin was asking him questions about which tractors were his favorite and stuff. And all at once, Jerry looked up at him and goes, "So what do you pull?" And Justin kind of paused for a minute, was like 60-30 deer. And he said Jerry just sat back in his chair and just.
I can see Jerry. I knew Jerry reasonably well, and I can see him making that face.
And Justin was like, "So did you ever farm or anything?" And Jerry just wouldn't even talk to him after that.
That's funny. That's Jerry. That's kind of who he was.
It was a neat place. I actually went there on a whim. So Avoca was only an hour-ish away from my house. And I had a buddy, his wife, and his two daughters that were going there before it closed. And it was on a whim. I called him for something. He's like, "Oh, we're going to Avoca." And I was actually at the time working out of Harlan. I was like, "Well, I'll just meet you there," type of thing. So I went with them, and here's two little girls attached to me walking around, and everybody's thinking it's my kids. Like, no, it's their kids. But yeah, but it was a neat place to see all the history and what Jerry had done. And yeah, it would have been cool if you guys got to be able to see that. So
yeah, I never made it there either, and I never made it to Pawcats in Florida either.
Yeah, I wish I could have gotten to see
I
Stu's.
drove by Punkets one time. I can't remember what I think I was going to Florida with my grandma or something, and we drove by it, but we didn't stop.
Yeah, that was from all I've been told, Stu was quite a guy.
I heard some awesome stories about it.
Yeah, and Stu was another one of those guys who never farmed. He was a paving contractor his entire life. He ran construction companies and up on the East Coast, up in New Jersey or New York, and sold off the first one and made a pile of money. Retired down in Florida, and they convinced him to start up another one down there. And he handled a bunch of paving there, and kind of built that. That's when he kind of fell off the deep end and started building the empire that he had, and it just never stopped. He was I interviewed his daughter because I wrote an article about Stu's place and the auction, and she said he was a serial collector, and we all know people like that. He also had I think a fairly extensive collection of, I want to say it was either Revolutionary or Civil War memorabilia, and I want to say maybe a collection of old pistols and rifles and firearms and stuff. But he was always collecting something, and that was what drove him to collect. I mean, he's on record as saying, "I want to collect everything that." One of everything that Harvester made. He damn near did. So, yeah, it was kind of neat.
That's wild.
You either do one of two things when you get into tractors. You either take one and soup it up a lot, or you just start buying a bunch of them.
It doesn't have to be. It
don't
doesn't
have
have to be
enough
one or
balls
the
to
other.
have
We know plenty of between the six of us or whatever on this podcast right now. We know plenty who have done both.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I like old tractors, but we don't have enough barn storage. It's got to be kind of sentimental for me to want it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got 10 that we talked about at the start of this whole.
9.
I'm talking about the 10.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
We got that tractor. We'll never get rid of that tractor.
Yeah.
That's got too much sentiment because kind of started this whole thing for us, and
Yeah.
we'd love to find that 9, and just because it's what kind of. So Dad had quit pulling there for a little bit right before our neighbor Ronnie, Dad's best friend, got him back into pulling with that 9, and that's kind of one of those. I'd love to have that tractor.
To clarify, it wasn't Dad's tractor. It was Ronnie's uncle's.
Hey,
You found that on Facebook.
No, I didn't. No. Your mom threw you under the bus.
Yeah,
Thanks,
that's
Mom.
Boswell, Indiana, in Dad's fire suit.
Thanks, Mom. Much love.
And leather boots.
Gotta love it. I love it. I love it. So we did have another question, and I know maybe this is a hard one, but I'm gonna go ahead and ask it anyway. Favorite memory of pulling with Dad? I mean, and for the record, for those of you who are watching, we never intended, and we were very intentional about this. We never intended to turn this into a Quentin Hartman tribute or memorial show. We knew that it would come up, and we were perfectly okay with that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine
You
with
know,
it.
but we're not trying to turn it into a memorial, so to speak. But
Right.
that said, we know that there are a lot of stories, and at least two of us, at least one of us, because I know I have. I've got my own story about your dad, and I suspect maybe Charles. Did you ever meet him?
I did not. I'm pretty sure I did announce him at some point, but no, I did not.
I was about to say, yeah, I know you got down to Indiana enough; it wouldn't have been impossible by any means. But.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I actually thought about this a little bit today because I figured this question was going to come up. Oh heck! I mean, there's a lot. I mean, you could go back. You could go back to the first year, Louisville, getting second in the qualifier and the pull off with Norm Cavan.
Him hitting a sand pile at Gordyville, and he bent the pipe.
I sent you a photo of that poosh.
Yeah,
He bent the pipe, and Dad blamed him running into the pile too hard because they didn't stop him. And I told him, there's a winner's video you can find on YouTube from Gordyville. I forget what year that was. I think it's like 17 or.
Yeah, because
hardcore.
it was 17. Hardcore was no paint.
Silver, yeah. But anyway, but if you watch it, the pipe was good until Dad didn't hold the brakes and rolled back down the sand pile. If he would have held the brakes, the pipe would have been fine.
In that photo, the pipe's okay, but we've got it sitting outside the shop still all bent up.
It's bent. That first 45 coming out of the hood, that's bent
pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. You guys, everybody remembers exactly what year everything happened. I don't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday.
I don't either.
We knew when we got hardcore on the track, and it actually hit the track in 2016 shied.
Yeah.
And it went to Gordyville aluminum, and then we got it painted, and
that was at Shied in 2016. One of my favorite memories would have been before we had hardcore. Brad stayed home to side dress corn, and me and Dad took the tractor alone out to Mound City, Missouri. It was the first time we'd ever went out there, and we left on Thursday evening and drove most of the way out there. Got west of Hannibal a little bit and stopped some truck stop, and then slept and got there. We got there about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, and we went into Mound City and ate at that little. I always call it the Duck Diner, but it was kind of like I can't remember what it was. But there was a little diner restaurant deal there in town.
Yep.
That was the first fire of hardcore right there. If you play that video.
You know what? For whatever reason, it didn't come through as a video. It's just a screenshot, so I apologize.
Okay, fair enough.
That didn't fit in that cage very well.
Yeah, that was a skinny cage. But we went out there, and me and Dad went to the diner there in town, and we
Quackers. That's the name of it.
There you go.
Thank you,
Quackers.
Richard. Appreciate it.
Yep. So we went into town there, and we're eating breakfast. And I'm not gonna throw names or anything under the bus. Not that they did anything wrong at all. It was more just really funny. But we sat down, and people didn't know us. We hadn't run the Silver Series or anything. We were not known west of the Mississippi at all. And there were some fellow competitors at another table, and one of them looked over at the other and very loudly was like, "Yeah, so I heard a rumor that Hartmans are coming out here, and Wagler might be coming too. That ought to be interesting." And me and Dad just looked at each other, and he gave me this grin, and we just kind of chuckled a little bit, didn't say nothing. And I look over, and finally one of the other competitors leaned over to him and goes, "Well, yeah, I think they're coming because they're sitting at the damn table right there."
I'm really tempted to ask you to throw him under the bus.
They didn't.
At least,
yeah, he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't know who we were.
No, but that's the funny part.
It may or may not have been some people that pulled some black cases.
Why did I have that? Why did that go right?
I
through
can't
my
remember
head?
who else was at the table.
Oh God, we could probably run right down the list.
Tears and Shadows are great. He, like I said, he said nothing wrong. He's just like,
yep.
Yeah, I just heard they're coming, and it was just kind of funny that we were sitting there.
That's funny. That's great.
And what year was that again?
That would have been like 2000. That might have also been 2016 because we didn't get hardcore out until the end. No, it would have been before that. It would have been like 14.
It was 16. I could put a pencil on 16.
Yep, it was 16. He's right.
So I probably, that was before I picked up a camera. I probably watched it go down the track and didn't even realize it, to be honest, because it's an hour and a half from my house to Mountain City, and I used to go to that before I picked up a camera all the time. So I probably saw it, but didn't even make a connection back then.
Yep.
Dad.
Now I'm going back to my album. I want to see if I have a picture of it.
You very well could.
Dad only drove hardcore once. Me and Andrew were in a wedding, and we told Dad to take it out. It was at Mountain City.
2018.
19.
No, 18, because we won the points in 17.
Oh, yeah. We did.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think 19 was rained out completely.
Yeah, we didn't go in 19. We didn't get out till Jerseyville in 19 because we were so wet here.
We were so wet. 19 was the year from hell for us. I played on the same farm like 3-4 times because I couldn't do anything right.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
I think we finished in July.
Oof.
Yeah, 19 was rough.
Yeah, you're right. It was 18 because that was the first year I ever met your dad. You guys weren't around that year.
Yeah, possible.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's my Quentin story. Is he was staged that night, and I was just wandering around in in the backfield there where everybody lines up, and he was sitting there just in international addiction, and just kind of taking it all in, and I knew who he was ish. I knew the name. I knew you guys were from a ways away, and I thanked him for coming. And he stopped and he shook my hand. And this is back in the time when I would have been shooting a lot for beer money, and Jason was announcing and yada yada yada. And he said he was the first person who I'd never really met who took time to thank me for what we did, and I'm sure, your dad was not a social butterfly on the internet. I don't know that he ever saw any of my photos. And if he did, I've looked at them from back then. They were horrible. So he was awful complimentary to me.
When did Dad?
But I never forgot that. That meant the
He had a
world to me.
Facebook for a very short while.
Yeah, it wasn't very long. And the only reason why he got it was for Facebook Marketplace.
Oh, boy.
As you do. Because he was looking for weights, right?
I don't know if he was. He just every now and then he likes scrolling and finding stuff that he can bring home.
Yeah.
He wasn't looking for weights. He had PTSD from slinging 6,000 pounds back in the days.
Well, there's probably some truth.
Yeah. It's getting matching sets. That's the key.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was fortunate enough to find a pallet of a full set of weights for 1486. They're sitting in the back of a shop, and they're like, "Yeah, $50 for all of them." I was like, "Actually, sold." I was like, "Because normally it's like $1 a pound." Like, no, we want to, yeah.
They're even more than that. Anymore, you 120 to 150 for 100.
Yeah, and at the time, like, we had an old Lindsay loader. Like, we didn't have row crop growing up. We did cattle and we did some hay type of thing, pasture ground, and I always took off the old Lindsay loader, which took about 30 minutes to put on and off, and you pinched a finger at some point, but it was always super light in the front end, and we didn't have extra weight, so I bought extra weights to put on there, and it worked so much nicer. But by God, I hated slinging weights to put on and off there, and I feel for guys having to sling weights tractor pulls after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I found it, and actually, I'm proud of that photo for 2018. That turned out pretty okay.
Yeah, Dad, he looks snug in there.
A little bit. Yeah, he looks
He's cozy.
He looks maybe a little more comfortable in the one that I'm just sending to Charles now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was boy. Just looking through some of these old
that
pictures.
bubble out cage. Yeah, Dad really needed that.
That would have been the 2016 year, right?
That one was?
No, this is the year where he drove both, because these are both from the same album.
Did we not have two sets of parks yet? Why is he on Stones?
Does Hardcore? Why is he?
They look different to me.
Yeah.
That's on a set of parks. Mm-hmm. Remember, we stole Dad's parks for a little bit. I bet we didn't have the second set of parks yet.
Because Dad had a set of 2017 Firestones.
Mm-hmm.
And I bet that's what he's running there.
Probably. Ryan Ritzert also pulled back-to-back, I believe.
He did. Both nights. Both nights. The only time that Dad ever, those tractors ever went with one person, and he was back-to-back both nights at Mound City.
Wow.
We kind of felt bad after sending him.
Talking about Ryan Ritzert there and his brother Sean, that was going to be another one of my fond memories. I don't deliberately pick stories where it was just me and Dad and Brad wasn't there because I love pulling my brother. But he was in a wedding. It was that. Yeah. No, it was 17. It was 2017. It was a year Hardcore won Silver Series points, and we went up. He was in
Dad broke a crankshaft, so we didn't have this tractor.
Yeah, Dad broke a crankshaft at Fort Recovery. We broke a couple cranks in our day. Dad broke a crankshaft at Fort Recovery, Ohio, so it was just Hardcore. And we stole the Parks tires off of Dad's tractor and put them on Hardcore. Borrowed some spacers from Kevin Masterson, which I still have in my storage unit that I need to give back to him.
That's great.
We gave them back, borrowed them again, and now they're still here. He keeps saying he doesn't care if he gets them back or not, but I've got them, and he's getting them back. Anyway,
we'll send Ralphie up to pick them up.
That's fine. We'll drink a beer with him.
That's fine. Anyway, so we went up there. Brad was in a wedding. It was just me and Dad, and then Ryan and Sean Ritzert went along just to help. And we went up there, and I thought I was going to win both nights for a second, but a couple guys finally slipped past me. I got a first and a third, but I won the buckle that year. And that's what pretty well locked in that points championship for us was that weekend.
That is a good one. For me, I have one up at Hillsboro.
I wasn't there.
When you weren't there, it was last year Super Farm. And I pulled the first night. I think Dad was technically signed up the second night. And I remember this year we had gone to Louisville a few times. When we went to the dyno, we had dynoed for Louisville. We never really dynoed our outdoor setup because at Louisville, we could keep the NW girds, but you had to take your coolers off. So we never really dynoed our outdoor setup, but we kind of went out, but just made it work. And I remember going up to Hillsboro, and we were having so passes, fifths, sixes, and stuff. We kept blaming hook position, just picked the wrong spot on the track, kept blaming this, that. We're like, all right, we got to find some more power. We go up to Hillsboro, and back in 2011, so many super farms up there at the time. We pulled against 27 super farms both nights, and I won the first night, and the track was going away pretty bad. First, second, or third puller was holding the lead, and Clay Darnell pulled 2 tractors ahead of me, moved it left. Dad liked the spot, but he pulled hard right. He came up to me and said, I'm moving you left. It's going to pull you right. Be ready on the brake. And sure enough, I come out of the hole, front end goes up, goes right. I stab on the brake quicker than Clay did, because Clay went all the way to the chalk line. And I was able to get it corrected quick enough, and about 100 feet, I could let off of it. And I went out there and I won. And the second night, we were a late hook again. And again, early hook was leading it, and we took the lead and took both wins that weekend in 2011 Super Farm. That was a pretty big win for us. And I know that was our last year Super Farm. And then we were like 5th, 6th in points. Mm-hmm. And by the time we ended it, we were going toward the last hook. We were I think we ended 4 points out of the lead.
Was that the year we tied out? We tied Dallas the second?
I think that's right.
Cootsy won it?
I think that's right.
Yeah. Waynesburg.
And then, Dad, all the way from Hillsboro, Wisconsin, he was so hyped from there, he didn't stop on the way home. Usually we get a hotel room. The whole was 11 hours, 13 hours?
No, it's
9?
Yeah.
Okay. Either way, 9-hour trip. He drove all the way home that night after the pull.
Good grief.
I woke up at 7 o'clock the next morning, walked out of the bedroom, and my dad was standing in the kitchen. I was like, I didn't expect to see you till lunch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Standing there eating a bunch of cheese curds they bought.
That
was when they gave away, I can't remember what brand they are. My mom knew what they were. Some type of baskets. Some name brand fancy baskets from Wisconsin. Because I remember Mom going on about how expensive those baskets were, and Dad was like, "Oh no, they're pretty cheap this weekend."
Awesome.
That's because the extra cash he had in his pocket he didn't tell her about. I know how that works. Right. Dad used to do that.
I got those baskets in my place.
Yeah, that last year Super Farm, Dad always said that was the most money he ever made tractor. I mean, not made, but as far as the most money he ever brought back.
It was the least money he'd ever lost.
Yeah, that's a much better way to put it. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like Hillsboro's been pretty good to you guys.
It has. It really
you guys
has.
have both brought home some hardware. And
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of trips with don't know how we made it this far without mentioning them, but a lot of trips with Josh Miley and his wife Andrea, and I can't tell you how many. I mean, Josh talked about stories back in the day of me riding on his lap in diapers while Dad was driving the semi. I mean, we trailered together for a long time. We did.
Miley, if you're watching, we want to sit down with you too.
Yep.
I've never had the chance to bring it up in person, but I damn sure will. We're gonna get him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I can't tell you
actually,
how many.
What we really want is we really want his little boy. We want Brooks. Let's see what Brooks is up to. Love that kid. Does anybody get? Okay, I got to ask this. And you've all seen that Jackson, the little kid from Indiana who is kind of an old soul in an 8-year-old's body. Who,
yes,
you know that kid, right?
I've seen him on
and
TikTok.
Now and now he's got a job with Deere. Deere just launched that search for the CTO, the Chief Tractor Officer.
Yeah,
and part of the training is that you go and spend a day or so with Jackson. and you learn what Jackson has to teach, which actually I think would be really entertaining.
It would be. Absolutely.
But along those same lines, does anybody feel like maybe Brooks is the red version of that?
I can see that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I know that Shane is watching. Shane, tell your dad to tell his people that we found the Jackson for Case IH.
There you go. Ain't wrong there. Oh.
So 2017, you won Silver Series points.
With hard.
And I think that, and that was the year that I met you guys.
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
Yeah.
You remember where it was?
Freeport?
Freeport.
I remember that because Brad won that night.
Yeah.
Brad won that night, and I remember walking down the track and you give me a high five.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. We had fun that night. That was that might have been. I don't know if I think that might have been the only year I ever made it to Freeport. I might have made twice. I might have been there twice.
Did you go up to Dickeyville the next night?
Nope. I left and I went out to.
No, it wasn't the same year.
I don't know that was the same year.
That was later.
Because I went from the year that I did Freeport, one or both years. I did it either 1 or 2 years. I left and headed west to Rockwell, because at the time Rockwell was on its old date, which was the first weekend. I think it was the first weekend in July.
Mm-hmm.
And because I remember that was the year that the year that who was it? Craig Braun blew the not the Hampton Hellhound. What was
Hampton
the name?
Hooker?
The Hampton Hooker, yes.
Yeah.
Remember when he blew that all the heck in Ellsworth?
Yes.
Yeah.
They had it back together for Rockwell.
Yeah.
I remember hearing about that.
And I remember getting pictures of it.
And that tractor became
Byers side piece, right?
yeah, George Byers side piece.
Yep.
I heard that I heard it was still had some remnants of being slapped back together, like stuff was held together with chewing gum and zip ties almost.
Well, you'll have that one.
You do what you got to do. That was going to be
Exactly.
another one of my favorite stories. We, I don't know what year this would have been, but we got a new turbo and injectors, and we put it in, and it was the week of our fair, and it was pretty quickly after we went 4-1 because our fair didn't have a 4-1 hook. So we were going to go down to Tanner, Alabama that Friday and Saturday. And Dad wanted to do a test pass on Thursday night after the farm pull at Vandenberg. So we went down there and he makes a test pass and the thing breaks a rocker arm. Was doing real good up until, I ain't no good. So we get home, and by the time the farm pull ended and we pulled and got home, it was like 12:30 at night. Brad was not feeling good. I can't remember. You caught a bug or something.
I caught something.
And so me and Dad went out there, and Dad was on the phone with somebody, and I took the top end of that tractor apart with welding gloves on, more or less.
Oh, jeez.
I remember he was on the phone with I forget who, and he goes, "Hold on, I got to let you go. My mechanic's yelling at me here." And I grabbed a hold of something, and it was hot. So we take it apart, and Dad called Rodney. It was like, "Rodney, I need a rocker arm. I might need a push rod, blah, blah. We ain't got extras." "Oh, yep, I got them over here. No big deal. I'll set them out. You can come get them in the morning." So me and Dad go to bed about 1. 5:30 the next morning, we're in the truck heading to Hoyleton, Illinois again. Go to Hoyleton, pick up rocker arm, come home, slap it back together. We're leaving about noon, and we're going through Nashville. We hit rush hour traffic, and Dad calls down to one of the guys down Mid-South. Tanner is like, "Hey, we're coming, but it's going to be close." He goes, "Oh, don't worry. We made you last class. You're fine." But we slapped that thing back together and made it down to Tanner. And I don't think we had a good weekend that weekend, but it was still kind of neat. It felt kind of old school, back to the old, rip it apart, slap it back together, and let's go pulling again, boys.
Well, is it now? Yeah, that's old school. It's not quite.
It's not old.
It's not old school where you were in the hall or
going down the road doing it.
Yeah, going down the road.
We didn't unload it. We did do it in the hauler. It was in our yard, but we didn't unload it.
Dad had a story. Him and Josh were going somewhere,
It was Freeport, Illinois.
Was it Freeport?
Years
ago. And I guess Dad had a different set of injectors he wanted to put in the tractor, and they realized they were getting short on time. They pull over to rest stop, and Dad and a buddy
in about Rockford, so only about like 35 minutes.
Dad and a buddy hop in the back and start pulling injectors and swapping them out. And it wasn't too long later, he said he felt them, slow down, going up and down hills. He goes, I think we're here. All of a sudden, you hear Josh outside. He's talking to somebody, and I didn't know who it was. They opened the door, and it was I don't know if Stacy Butson was announcing back then, but I know it was whoever was announcing at that time. Just happened to be standing there, and when they opened the door, there were 2 feet right there, working on the tractor while going down the road.
Well, he asked, he goes, where are you from? They said, Evansville, Indiana. He goes, oh my God, that's a long way. And then they opened the door, and there's 2 guys. He thought they rode all the way from home.
That could easily have been Stacy, because I think who did Stacy do that show with? Oh God, Stranley. I'll bet it was either him or John Stranley.
Okay.
I don't know.
I know it was a long time ago. I mean, it could have been early 2000s. Very easily.
Well, as far as I know, John Stranley was born with a Fu Manchu. So if there was a Fu Manchu involved, that was John. Love you, John.
That's a question for Mr. Miley.
Yeah, it would be.
So you mentioned, you mentioned lots of road trips to Hoyleton and the relationship you guys have with Rodney.
Mm-hmm.
Take us through how you guys got a new toy to play with.
Technically, Rodney actually priced that thing to Dad back in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
All the way back then, it was, but I don't know if it was a serious notion or not, but he threw Dad a price, and at that time, we just didn't.
Well, it was, I tell everybody it happened somewhere between really fast and 10 years in the making.
Mm-hmm.
But Dad was thinking heavily about it. We just went 4-1, and we had some really good luck after we went 4-1.
And at the time, the 4-1 class really wasn't that big in our area yet. And honestly, it's kind of why we decided to make the jump. The 4-1 class kind of started to pick up, and then it just kind of died out.
ITPA had taken it on.
Yeah.
For those that don't know where Haubstadt's at, we're 18 miles off the Illinois line and about 25 off the Kentucky line. So
I should have said something. I should have prompted you guys.
And we've done a lot of ITPA pulling over the years. Being Schnicker customers, it was always nice. We were always real welcomed over there. But yeah, Rodney priced that thing to Dad back then, and I remember Dad showing me the post he had typed out to put his tractor on pull off. And he was heavily considering buying it. And he called Rodney, and based on what I've gotten from Rodney and what I remember Dad kind of telling us, is I think Dad basically called Rodney and said, I think I want it. And Rodney was like, well, before you do that, I just want you to know that Ed Orrell is going to put his ag chassis up for sale. He bought a component. And he was like, have you ever thought about a second 4-1? Because me and Brad had been clamoring about a second tractor a little bit so we could drive more. Yeah. So that was when it was Kenneth Hale's. I didn't know if we were going to get into the lore of hardcore or not tonight.
Well, we can certainly do that. We'd love to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that tractor, I'll give you the brief lore on it. It was built by LD Nation's brother, Melvin, I think was his name. And Kenneth Hale bought it from him and ran it as the Night Trouble down south in the 8 Super class for years. And then Ed Orrell bought it from Kenneth, pulled it Super Farm for like a year, and then made it a Pro Stock, pulled it for several years. And then we bought it from him. And the only thing we reused off of it by the time it was all said and done was the rear end and the roll cage. But yeah, so he was like, Quentin, that's a really good chassis. It hooks good. He's like, have you ever thought about a second 4-1? He's like, well, the boys have been talking about that. And he's like, I really think if you're going to do this, he said, I think you'd have more fun with 2 4-1s than 1 Pro Stock because you got 3 people that want to drive. And in hindsight, he was right.
Then we asked Dad later if he ever thought he'd have 2 pulling tractors. He said he swore he never would.
Yeah. I remember asking him, I said, do you ever think you'd be building a second one? He goes, I swore I never would. And I didn't understand why until we got in the process of building hardcore. And I was like, this sucks.
Took us 3
But
years.
it's not the first. I mean, it's not the first time that the family has had multiple pulling tractors.
But back then, they were farm tractors. They never built one from the ground up. I mean, they might
Time out. Let's talk about small tire.
Oh, the mini rods.
This is this is something there's 53 people watching tonight, and if more than 4 of them realize that the Hartman family used to own mini rods, I would be shocked.
If Weir's still in here, he would probably almost know more about that than us, honestly. So my dad's brother passed away in '94 in a farming accident. It was his older brother, Curtis. And Curtis and a couple neighbors had mini rods together. I think at one time they had like 3 of them and a sled. And I think in the very end they had one blown one. I know they had one with a Kinzer fuel injection system.
I have to break in the action for this.
Yeah, Dad never.
Nicely done, Abby.
I think Dad drove one behind the farm one night, but that's it. He talked about hauling them up to the Indy Super Bowl a couple times, going with them. But they had one with a Kinzer fuel injection. They had one they called the junkyard tractor, and Dad always said that was their money winner. It was always pretty consistent. They knew what to do, and they had another one they called their big tractor that they were always trying stuff, and I think they had they'd try some wild stuff, and it didn't quite work.
I had to look and see if Kinsler's even still in business. I haven't heard that name in a long time.
Yeah,
right. It's been a hot minute.
They're only about 10 miles from here.
I can't tell you what motors they had. I can't tell you what size they were. Of all things, Adam, it wouldn't be impossible that Adam Kester wouldn't remember seeing those a little bit. Because Larry would have been pulling mini rods back then too.
And Ron Tobin, that helps Adam out quite a bit. He used to run around with those mini rods.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he ran around. That's kind of how Tobin and how Toby and Kester's. I don't know if they knew each other before then, but I know. So my uncle Curtis and a neighbor Russell Korf and Mike Schweppe up in Huntingburg. They were the 3 that owned the tractors together. And Ron came with, and Toby came with, was good friends with Mike and his brother David, and that's how they. I don't know if that's how he met Kester's. I really can't answer that question. Like I said, Adam would probably know that better than me. But yeah, Dad. We were a half breath away from being spark plug people, which is kind of appalling if you think about it.
There's the quote of the show.
That is 100%. I don't know how we could put that on a T-shirt, but there have to be a way to do it somehow.
I asked Dad one time, I said, why'd you never really get into the mini rods too much? He said, they had like 2 tractors and 7 people. So he was like, I was never going to get to drive one. He's like, so and
Dad was also 6 years younger.
And Dad was 6 years younger than Curtis. So there was enough of an age gap there. And, but he just finds, he goes, I think what really came down, he said, if I was going to spend that much money, it was going to blow some damn smoke.
Mm-hmm.
I've never got a spark plug. I don't know how to read one, and I don't plan to start.
All I know is if the Briggs and Stratton pump motor stops working, we'll just throw that over the shoulder and put a new one in and hope it works.
Grab the ether.
Yeah, 2 more shots of ether. She'll run.
One more time. That's it.
God, that reminds me.
The only thing I remember Dad talking about is one of them had a set of 16-ply tires off of a tile machine that they screwed to some steel rims and pulled the valve stem cores out of. They ran them with no air.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure I remember him talking about Bob Parks cut them.
Hey, Bob, here's what we're going to do.
Yeah. Bob, hear me out.
Yeah.
Got an idea. Man, those things. What ply are mini rod tires now? Do we know?
Not a clue.
Shit. 2 or 4, I think. I mean, it's not much.
I know when we were going up to Chad's one time, Larry Kester brought a set of tires over to take up to have new ones mounted on those rims. and I could pick one up with one hand and set it in the back of the truck. I was like, Dad, this is kind of nice.
Goodness. Wow.
Now, granted, those are a wore out set of tires. They've been ground on a lot, so they were as thin as they were ever going to get. But
yeah,
you'd be glad you didn't stick with the mini thing because they fry a set of tires literally every run now.
Yeah. I'm too large for a mini rod.
Oh, that's a bunch of crap. We've seen some big boys get in those.
Russell Phipps has entered the chat. I love you, Russell, but and we all and he even, I mean, he's like, yeah, I they had to pry me out of that thing with a pry bar. You know, I wonder how his mod is coming. I haven't heard it. I haven't asked him in a while.
Yeah, I haven't really seen any teasers floating around either.
He told me he was going to call me when it was ready. He wanted me to come down and take some shots of it and do the glamour shot thing. And yeah, that's fine. Can I do Bollingers too? He's like, yeah, sure, why not? So
yes, we have not been blessed with any new photos, so no one knows. He's keeping that close to the vest.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yep, no, totally fine.
That's okay. So if you guys were going to build something like an entirely new ground up build, and it wasn't for 4-1s, wasn't for, well, let's just say it's not for pro stock, since that's the class that you guys are in now. What would you build?
Light Super.
Boy, no hesitation.
I was going to say that was quick. You didn't have to finish that one.
So
but I want a diesel Light Super.
I
love what Kenneth Hale's doing down there.
Holy cow, is that tractor gorgeous or what?
Yeah. Oh, it's so pretty.
And it runs.
Yeah, that's
the trouble we would have is being able to hold the front end down. That diesel motor having that extra weight.
Yeah.
Be hard to balance it.
Mm-hmm. And Ken Hale's had that same problem. I've got pictures. Yeah. The only time I've ever shot that thing that, I could have damn near stood underneath the front wheels.
Yep.
Yeah. And he's trying every trick in the book, I think, because isn't it only a 2-charger, so he can put more weight out?
I think that's correct. I don't know.
Might be.
I know we talked to Ryan about it one time. We know them guys from going down south and pulling a bunch of Mid-South and stuff like that. We know them pretty well. And I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be another question for Adam Kester because, his wife's from down there. So.
Yep.
But yeah, probably for me it'd be a Light Super. What about you?
I really don't know. The only class I've ever thought about was that one. So
that's why I almost didn't ask the question, because I knew that you were so myopically focused on pro stock.
And the fact that we just got here, I haven't even had the time to think about it. What other class I would try to run?
Well, yeah, I understand that.
All of them would be neat. I know it's funny as I say I'm not a spark plug guy. I would love to run a mini rod once, but I don't think I'd want to own one.
I get that.
If I've always said if I wanted to pull on Easy Street, if I didn't want to work on it anymore, I'd buy a 2-wheel drive truck and I'd put it. So we're only 15 minutes from Adam Kester's shop. So I'd buy a 2-wheel drive truck, put an MBR motor on it. And I mean, if I thought that thing sounded funny, I'd just call Adam and be like, hey, I'm dropping it off.
Yeah, right. That goes beyond.
Yeah, I couldn't keep my hands off of it. But if I wanted to do the no touch pulling deal, where I just go to the track, bend the throttle, that would be the easiest way for me to do it and still be extremely competitive.
Now, granted, you guys have just picked up this one, so you haven't driven it yet. But have either of you driven a pro stock yet?
He drove it.
I drove it once in Springfield, Tennessee.
You did? Oh, okay.
I did get one pass on it. That was an experience. It was way different. I don't even know how to describe it, how different it is.
And for those of you who don't know Brad, understand how important this moment is. Brad is never at a loss for words.
Oh, come on.
I just gave you enough time to put words together, buddy.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I wasn't thinking. But no, so the pro stock in general, like the 4-1, you go up, you warm it up, and there's some people around, it's okay. You fire up a pro stock and you gain a crowd. I mean, that experience is something that I've never really been a part of before, which is pretty neat. But, the pass itself, I had to remember to turn an intercooler on again. And that's something my brother has never done.
I'm so nervous I'm going to forget to turn the cooler on. I asked Rodney that. I was like, if I forget to turn the cooler on, it won't light the turbo, will it? He goes, oh, yeah, it will. He goes, it won't make it all the way down the track, but it will try. And
I remember a night when Braden Schrammick did that at the first Pullers Championship, and he came to rest right in front of me because he realized it.
Yeah.
Fortunately, it didn't hurt the motor.
I've already talked to Cody McKinley. We're going to set it where whenever we hit a certain RPM, the dash is going to flash really brightly. Hey, idiot. Hey, idiot. Hey, idiot.
We're actually going with a bigger screen so we can make a bigger idiot light.
That's actually true.
That's great.
Some of these newer style dashes, you might even be able to get it to yell at you and literally say, hey, dumbass, turn it on.
Right.
Yeah.
But then actually making the pass, the Springfield, Tennessee track is, typical Southern track. It's a little harder. Doesn't have the most grip in the world. It was. Hey, there Cody. I thought about calling you today, but I was like,
Cody, you just saved him a phone call.
But the pass, I was fighting in my head how to drive it because I know what power this thing's got, or at least what I've been told this thing's got compared to the other one. And I'm thinking, man, I got to drive it a lot softer because it's got so much more power. But everything I watch, you watch Masterson, they don't lay off of it too hard. So I'm like, I can't wait on it. It's a mind game I was trying to play. And it's having faith that it's going to hook up and take off. It's stuff like that. It was just, I had a lot of things going through my head. It was a whole different experience.
The amount of time.
Speaking of Masterson, where did you finish up again?
2 foot behind the rat. I was pretty happy. I was stoked. I thought, so there was a leader flag, but I think it was at like the 330. I thought I was like 15, 20 foot back from it. I ain't even close. This sucked. Then I get back to the pits, and Daryl Foles tells me I won. Like, what do you mean I won? He goes, and I got third. I was 2 foot behind Masterson and 7 foot behind Brad Moss. I was in the hunt. I was happy. I couldn't have been happier.
We got it started without snuffing it out in front of everybody. We didn't look like idiots.
That was the goal.
There you go.
We had to fire it up here once in the yard to make sure we could do it. But
yeah, you'll have that.
It's never sprayed that much ether at one time.
Yeah, Dad's tractor, it just takes a little whiff. You get it going, she's good to go. This thing, if you don't pour 2 cans in it in the middle of summer, she ain't gonna run.
You ain't doing. You're doing it wrong.
Oh, I really like this is off the rails, but I really want to know when are they going to make bigger ether cans?
So Lucas Oil has 12-ounce cans.
Who does?
Lucas.
They're 12.
Is that what you use?
But are they as concentrated as the John Deere ones?
It's only
not quite.
It's not quite as.
This is the portion of the show where we introduce visual aids.
Yeah.
We don't have any up here. Dang.
But it's a standard aerosol can size.
Yeah. Like, well, what's that? It'd be the same size as that.
Yeah, it's the same size. So okay, this is an 11-ounce. This is floor cleaning ether, is what that is.
Andrew, that's bug spray.
Yeah, that's floor cleaning ether.
Nice.
Yeah.
Can we talk? I mean, you guys know you guys are not regular competitors on the Pro Stock class yet, but can we take a minute and can someone explain to me how Brad Moss can go 9, 10, 11 months between hooks, climb in the seat of a tractor he hasn't sat in ages, and go and whoop ass with it?
When you're
how
home,
does he do this?
Yeah.
When you're home, you're home. It's like riding a bike.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
I mean, that's his old tractor.
It is
He's got
his
a
old
lot of
tractor.
laps on it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
At least that night it was. He's drove some other people's tractors, but yeah.
Oh, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know he's.
I mean, good equipment goes a long way. Of course, it was actually the exact same tractor. That one year, Justin Wagler drove it up at Ellsworth, Wisconsin, when they had the PPL hook that one year.
Yep, I remember that. I was there for that.
No, he won with Cat 5.
Yeah, that's right.
That was Cat 5. It wasn't.
That was Cat 5. You're right.
Yeah. loud and
heavy.
Loud and heavy now.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. I wonder if Peter regrets sending that up to Farley, given the success that Brandon has had with it.
Peter's been very competitive.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, I don't know.
His tractor always runs really well. You don't ever count it out.
Yeah.
Nope, you don't. He's one of those guys where if you're gonna win, you're gonna drive around him to do it.
Yep. Any day of the week, he's the one to watch.
And Simon seemed like wanted, you can give them about anything and they'll take it to the front. So I don't know that it really would have made a lot of difference in the, in the grand scheme of things of how the last couple of years played out.
Yeah, perhaps you may be right.
Good pullers will always find their way to the front.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, you guys did.
Don't
Don't start with that. We're the idiots who bought Rodney's tractor crap. You
That's
tried
all
that
we
with
are.
me 10
Pretty
hours
good.
ago in text. I didn't believe it then. None of us believe it now.
I just hope we can do the chassis justice.
Yeah. The whole thing. What about the whole thing?
Well, yeah. Just do the, everyone knows how well it runs. I just hope we can continue its, continue where it's at, where it was.
Well, it's pretty simple. You just get in the seat, and when the hook drops in, you forget you're sitting on your wallet for the next 12 seconds and just go.
Go and have
Usually
fun.
my wallet's still sitting in the truck, so that's easy.
It is
So what are the-
amazing how quickly logic will leave a man's thought process. You start talking about winning a plastic trophy or something like that.
I think we just
Hey, if you win
upgraded to the
Hillsborough,
show.
you get a nice belt buckle. I mean, that's a pretty damn nice belt buckle. Let's
It was.
be real honest.
We got it sitting right over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do me a favor. There might be I guarantee you, someone who's watching tonight has never seen a Hillsborough buckle. Will you flash that on screen?
You want to go grab it?
Yeah, and every year they're different.
Mm-hmm.
Every
Every
year
year
they're
they're different.
That's one event that this year I'd like to get to.
It's a nice event. It's a nice facility.
Please do.
Yeah.
Like do what you got. I mean, get your ass to my house and we can roll up together.
Yeah.
It's fine.
No,
it's fine.
I know. Yeah, because it's legit right on the way.
Right, and my car actually knows the way.
Right.
Actually,
And
If I could just figure out how to sleep on the way, like that'd be even better yet. But
well,
no.
the hell you will. because depending on which way we go, there's some gorgeous. And we prove that gravity still works in Indiana.
It's on the laptop. It's okay.
Okay, good.
There's enough glare through the glass. There you can see
It's all right. We can still see
It's
it.
all right.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's a neat piece.
It really is. They really are cool. Don's
they
got a
are.
good thing going up there. And,
Yes, he
and,
does. He's got a very good show. He puts on a very good pull. Very good.
mhm. And he will not stop
Nope.
trying to improve it. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was blown away. I think it was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I've been going to that show since probably 18. I think was my first year. So it's and Don and I have gotten to be very good friends. We talk, fairly frequently. I actually owe the man a phone call. But I was blown away when in I think 22. We're in the middle of the poll on Friday night, or one of the two nights. It's Friday or Saturday night. Here he comes around with an ice cream and cone in hand because they have really good ice cream at that poll. And he makes a beeline for all of us over in that kind of media corner. And he just wanted to make sure that everything was cool. Everything was copacetic. We were happy. We were comfortable. Wondered if there was anything that we could do. I've never had a promoter ever check on the media crew like that before. I mean, if I shut up.
Bill Petrie.
Okay, you're right. Bill Petrie, yes.
Yep.
But, now had I asked him for an ice cream cone and a beer, he probably would have told me to go F off. Because that's kind of the way Don would do stuff like that. But
Can I elaborate on that?
what?
The first time I ever met
Yes,
Don
please.
Slama
Yes.
was in Louisville 2 years ago. First time in Louisville.
Are you going to fulfill your obligation before or after the story?
During
the story. Never met Don before in my life, and Don is like, I've grown very fond of Don, but he gets right in my face and he's like, "You're the quiet one on the show. At least say shit or fuck every once."
This is the beer back in the Beer Money Monday show days.
Yeah, and he goes, "At least say shit or fuck every once in a while." So if we ever call it a Don Slama approved show, it is now a Don Slama approved show.
That's why.
So, but yeah, so you grew very fond of Don very, very quickly at that point. Because before then, I couldn't tell you who he was because I don't go to his events and I've never been up there before. So it was a lot of fun, but it's one on my bucket list that I'd like to go because everyone talks about it being kind of a destination pull and how well it's ran. And I mean, everybody's got their spot and how quickly things move. So that's on the list to get to. So,
And
Charles, what's your smart ass remark?
I'm just remembering, I was going to say he is lightning fast with the one-liners, and I was remembering a particularly funny one that was delivered on one of those shows.
Please,
it's been a year and a half.
Please do.
He said, Jesus, you could fuck up a one-man funeral.
So it was the week of the show. It was the week of his pull, and I remember Jason drove up to the track, and they were up in the press box or whatever, and the two of them were side by side, and I mean, to be clear, and maybe this is inside baseball, but they respect each other's hustle. They are not friends, and I'll leave it at that. So getting them in the same room was something. Putting them in two folding chairs next to one another for 45 minutes, maybe a minor miracle, but it was, and it was, I remember watching, because I don't think I was able to be on that show, but I watched it. And I remember just about falling off my chair when I heard him say that. You know, because they were going back and forth and just kind of bantering like we all do. And
well, they were giving it to each other pretty hard.
Oh, they were, and yeah, I mean, and you can tell when somebody, you know, grabs another gear as far as, you know, trash talking, giving each other shit, and Don just kind of really upped the game when he looks at him and he's got this look on his face like, God, you could fuck up a one-man funeral. And we laughed so hard.
Yeah.
It was hysterical.
And to Adam Wilson's point, they've done very well with their social media. So Tori's taken over that, and Don's been a very good sport. And coming in, or sorry, Sally's taken over, and Don's been a very good sport of like coming in and doing some really great cameo, like, I mean, voiceover stuff. You know, like she's like, "Hey, you have to repeat exactly what this says," and he's done phenomenal at it. And there's been some really good ones. So if you don't follow them on TikTok, for example, it is phenomenal. Yeah, and they get their mechanics and like the other shop guys and everybody involved in it. So like they're getting everybody, and it's good. Yeah, the Ether video is pretty good.
Don, yes, the one where he wants to do the cold start.
Yes.
Oh, that's funny. So you brought up a point. And I know this isn't, you know, this is not the Don Slama worship hour, but I want to throw this out there because I know that Brad and Andrew, you guys were there this year or the year. No,
we pulled
Brad,
against Don.
You and Dad were there. Andrew, it was the year that that your darling wife was 7 months pregnant or 8.5 months pregnant or something.
Yeah.
And Don was selling, it was the year of the John Deere Busch Light can. Mm-hmm. And Don bought a pallet. Actually, he bought 3 pallets of that beer, and he was selling raffle tickets, you know, to raise money for one of his customers. one of his customers, and I've never met this customer, but I know who they are. They are somewhere in between Cody's age and Charles and my ages. I think early 40s. And husband and wife both diagnosed with cancer at the same time. And they've got kids. Rough road. I mean, and, you know, most of us who have met Don, we know that the guy has a heart of gold. Rough around the edges, you know, gives shit with the best of them, but at the end of the day, the man's got a great big heart. And he wanted to do something. And so all the proceeds went to those guys. And he raffled off, sold tickets for a drawing for a pallet each night. And tickets were like $20 a piece or whatever. And they made good money on it. And, you know, it all went to them. There is a particular TikTok that they made right around Christmas. And some of you probably saw it. It was that scene from Home Alone, you know, where Kevin McAllister is talking to somebody, and he just keeps rapid fire questions, you know. Where do you live? What do you do? Do you have any children?
That's not Home Alone.
Are you sure?
No. Because he's asking the questions to Chris Farley. It's not Home Alone.
Or is it John Candy that he's asking questions to?
John Candy. It's John Candy. Yeah.
So maybe it's Uncle Buck?
There you go. It's Uncle Buck.
Okay, so it's it's a scene from Uncle Buck. And they draft Jason Oatsman, who's their parts manager. He's been there for 25 years or more. And Jason, and they did this video where it's Jason and the gentleman who has their customer who has cancer. And they knew that his wife was going through a rough patch, that she wasn't feeling well. She needed to laugh. So they all got together and they made this video just to make her laugh. It ended up going like stupid viral. And I sat and watched it and just about peed my pants laughing. It was especially because Jason's real quiet. And he doesn't really open up to you unless he knows you or you get to know him a little bit. And I have. We ended up talking about that. And he's like, he just shook his head. He's like, the shit she gets me into. Sally's persuasive powers are second to none. She can get Dawn to do anything she wants. She can get Jason to do anything she wants. She can get every one of those techs to do whatever she wants. And make utter fools of themselves just for the fun of it, and they'll do it. And it just hats off to her. She has gone to the Sally's really done a good job with all that. Who's echoing?
I was exiting out of the page. That's my bad.
So, yeah. Anyway, now we can move on from the Don Salama worship hour.
So
to something else.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew, I was told you're an F1 fan, so who's the best F1 driver? Take the cars out of play. Who's the best F1 driver?
On the grid right now?
Absolutely.
It's still Max Verstappen.
Is it?
Interesting.
I mean,
put him in a Mercedes. I mean, there's talk of him going to Mercedes. Is that still a thing?
Well, apparently Adrian Newey's leaving Red Bull.
Right?
Yeah. I don't know. Max Verstappen, obviously Lewis Hamilton's still great. Fernando Alonso, for whatever reason, the man doesn't age.
There's the name that I was going to say.
I just so I listen to a podcast with Will Buxton on Red Flags podcast on my 8-hour drive to Arkansas, and he actually watched Max and grow up and go through the academy in Florida and stuff, and it was very interesting to see. And actually, I didn't realize Will's retiring, and he's going to have a book come out here August or October. I forget which one it is, but it's going to go through the whole history, 75 years of F1. and from dominant teams, dominant drivers, and like the whole history. Because he's like, the fun fact that they came out with is 1 in 3 F1 fans has been watching F1 for less than 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
They have that statistics now.
I'm surprised the number is that low, or is that high?
I'm surprised he's
I'm not.
retiring because he's younger than me.
The dude lived out of. I mean, he was going to races in a like what we would call a conversion van, a camper van, and he didn't have money for food, or I mean, it was either food or gas, and he chose gas, and then like these teams would feed him when he got there, and that's like, and then he started getting like into it a little more and more and more, but like it like, and then the funny part was, if you've seen Drive to Survive on Netflix, have you watched that? Okay,
Oh, yeah.
you know how he's got that like. He's got that slow talking pause. So when he went to go to start this, he thought he was interviewing drivers, and he got there and they prepped him, and all of a sudden, like the camera's pointed on him, and he was worried about fucking up what he was going to say. So he said it very, very slowly and methodically so he could think about what he was going to say. And that's just become his persona on the whole show at this point, because he's like, I don't want to piss anybody off or say the wrong thing. So that's his persona.
I just love all the memes where it's like, whoever finishes the race in the least amount of time will be the winner of the Monaco GP. Like, he just like says like the most obvious stuff. It's like, that's how a race works. The guy who finishes
If you
first.
don't already, follow F1 Troll on Instagram.
Yeah.
What about what's that YouTube channel?
Rocket Powered Mohawk.
Yes.
His most recent video we will not play on this show because it's all the shit you could get away with saying in like 2005 and can't now, and he still does it anyway. Search Rocket Powered Mohawk, all one word on YouTube, and you will laugh your ass off.
Yes, that is 100% true. And you will laugh your ass off even if you're not an F1 fan.
Yeah, you don't have to be.
I'm a casual F1 fan at very best. So I have no idea what the hell these guys are talking about. Brad and I are in good company there.
I record it all because I'm not getting up at 4 a.m. to watch when it's overseas. Like,
most of the time I just watch the highlights.
Well, it's too easy on Hulu just to record it and watch it like later on Sunday when you have time, or Monday or Tuesday. You just have to like boycott social media. But I would contribute a lot of that to why one in 3 people are less than 5 years of watching it, because it's too easy to record it and watch it later versus getting up at 4 a.m. to watch it like you had to, or previously.
Yeah.
But what's Daniel Ricciardo? Is he going to stay at RB? Is he going to move to Red Bull? Like, I know what my thoughts are. He's going to be the PR guy. I mean, he's got a seat if there's one open. If it's taken by somebody else, he's going to be the PR guy for Red Bull, and that's it.
I think the only way he stays in that seat is if Red Bull just says, "Well, Honda, we're splitting ways next year anyway. Yuki, you're out," and because they got to give Liam Lawson something here. I mean, they don't have to do anything, but
right. Yeah.
I think that's the only way. If somehow, like, hey, we know that Yuki, other than the Chinese GP, this past weekend, we know that Yuki has beaten Daniel by every metric so far this year. But if that continues throughout the rest of the year, I don't know how they're like, hey, you're leaving and he's not. But I personally think that there's going to be an implosion in Red Bull. Seems like a lot of tension between the higher ups and everything, and then all the Dewey rumors and stuff.
Well, then in that case, I think that we should all appeal to Donald Nelson. Mm-hmm. Yes, that Donald Nelson, for those of you who are watching from the Outlaws, and get Daniel a new seat.
He would totally do it too. He did. He did in the promo for the USGP a few years ago.
That's what I was getting at. Andrew, did you know that?
Do what?
Did you? Okay, good. So, So the first year of the USGP
it was
in
a
Houston,
few years ago in the run up to one of the years for the Austin.
Yeah, one of the Austin races. So,
Dakota.
So Donald Nelson, like outlaw Donald Nelson, pulls the Texas bullwhip.
Yeah.
His son-in-law, or I don't know if I can't remember if it's son-in-law or if it was daughter's boyfriend at the time or whatever it was, he worked for Red Bull North America. They did a video, and it's impossible.
I remember this video.
It's hard to find on YouTube, but it is still out there, where they legit dropped Daniel Ricciardo off at one of the farms that Donald Nelson owns, and he was going to sample local culture and do farm work. And they tried him at a handful of different things, and like he like hitchhiked out there, and walked up the driveway. He's got his racing suit, but he's in street clothes, and they put him to work, and he's quite worthless at most of the things. And then the video cuts to the end, and he's looking at this lean-to shed, and he sees this thing under a tarp, and he just kind of curiosity gets the better of him, and he peeks underneath it, and it's the Texas bullwhip, and he sees superchargers and big Hemis, and you see his eyes get as big as saucers, and then the camera cuts away, and suddenly there's somebody in a Red Bull racing suit who fires it, pulls the tarp off and fires it, and does a burnout in the pasture. Oh, it's such a cool video.
I just tried looking it up.
It is a video that never went anywhere. Red Bull's social media and their media team.
Back when it came out, they didn't have like the social media following that they have now either.
No.
The 15-second cut of it, the short version of that video is on Red Bull Racing's Twitter page.
Okay. I think it's still on YouTube in a couple of places, but it's nowhere to be found on Red Bull's page. But I mean, they did it like Red Bull does Red Bull videos. And
if what you're asking, I will put Max Verstappen on a pro stop.
Did you?
Hell yes.
Oh yeah.
Let's go.
If Red Bull's backing it.
Yeah. Especially,
okay. Now that's the caveat. If Red Bull's backing it, let's be honest.
I mean, if Max Verstappen's backing it, let's not act like that's not peanuts to him. I mean,
true, but you know what? If you get Red Bull on board and Max Verstappen, hey, Brandon, you better turn up the wick. Jason, you better follow suit. Colin, you better do some things for Savanovic because you're all going to have to square off with an F1 driver.
Yeah. Oh, your car makes 1,000 horsepower? That's cute.
That's cute.
Yeah.
What do you mean it only lasts for 12 seconds?
Oh, that's all you need to get off on that thing.
Probably so.
Mm-hmm.
That's shorter than his pit stop.
That's probably like 3 pit stops for.
Well, no. By the time you make it through pit lane, it's a 24 second.
All right.
Yeah, not like actual pit stop. By the time you drive through pit lane, the run's over. You mean we're not
1.9 last year.
Yeah, we're not talking about
Good
Bottas's pit stop with a 52 second pit stop.
Yeah. I was gonna throw Ferrari under the bus on that one.
Well, yeah, but Bottas had I think it was like a 50 and then a 52 second pit stop. But I will say that the commercial of him advertising that was at the vehicle in Australia with the short shorts, that was hilarious. Absolutely. I mean, it's like I don't know, I'd call it like a granola mom Outlander back Australian vehicle, and he's got like the short shorts where his ass cheeks are hanging out the bottom, and he's like crawling in through the passenger window and stuff. Oh, it was great. I mean, it's hilarious because it's his. I mean, it's full on his style.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about shit I don't ever want to see. Thanks.
You
watch Drive for Survive because you won't just see him in short shorts. You'll see it all.
Great. That's wonderful. Andrew, last time you and I were together, we were riding in a combine, and you confessed to me something that is
wow.
Hang with me on this. No, Andrew, you'll remember this conversation.
I definitely don't remember what you're talking about.
And all of a sudden, it got real
How
curious.
have you gotten that test drive in a GR Corolla yet?
No. Oh, you're talking about how I love hatchbacks?
Yes.
Oh, I
Yeah,
love
there's
hot hatches.
okay.
Oh, I
So
love hot hatches. Have I drove
there's
them? Absolutely not.
there's
But
some
only
layers
not
to
yet.
this guy, and so
I'm I'm a horsepower junkie, and I don't care. Like I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's a 10 horsepower Briggs and Stratton go kart. Let's figure out how to make it 10 and a half. Like
You're in good company on the screen when it comes to hot hatches.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm not a hatchback fan, but like an RS3, yeah, I could get down with that. That's a RS3 and R8. Those are the two.
Yep.
R8s are fun. I've ridden shotgun in one. I could not stuff myself into the driver's seat. I was given the opportunity. And it wasn't because I'm just a fat guy. I mean, I am just a fat guy, but my feet are too big. Like I could not fit my feet into the footwell.
It's okay. I tried to drive a sports car once with cowboy boots on, and every time you hit the gas pedal, you hit the brake too. It doesn't work very well. You didn't make it out of the parking lot.
I'm not gonna lie, that might have been going against me when I tried to.
But if we circle back to the whole Facebook Marketplace thing, do you know how many R8s come up on my Facebook Marketplace? It's like, oh, that's only like 75,000. It's still not in the budget, but like it's getting down there a ways. It's 2008. Like you start crunching numbers that don't exist, but you start crunching them in your head, and then you go to sleep and dream about it.
Really want one, shop for a V8 one. That's the hack.
Yeah.
You're using
why would you buy that
right now?
Well, if you want to flex on the corner, nobody has to know. Just coast by.
A V8 will never sound like a V10.
No,
never.
Yep.
Yeah.
No.
It's the same discussion that we can have about mods and Allison mods and V8 mods.
Yep. Mm-hmm. No, V10's Howell proper. I had one. It was awesome. Not an R8. Not an R8.
Did it make the pretty the harmonious noises?
Especially when I cut the cats out of it, and yeah, then it sure did.
God bless him.
What was that? Was that a Triton? Or was
it was a V10, the V10 Ford.
Okay. Yep. And it still sounded that way. It still
absolutely.
made the all right.
It didn't wind out super high. I think it redlined at like 6,500, but I mean, it sounded.
That's high enough.
It sounded.
I thought them Tritons were terrible motors.
I don't know. Mine. I never had any problems with mine. The only thing I ever did to that truck, the only problem I ever had is the third leaf up in the back. I broke on both sides at different times. Otherwise, the thing was trouble-free for me. But that was my thing.
The next owner didn't fare so well, but
because you know who owned it? You know who owned it after you did? Apparently Tillman.
Yeah. Well, then I know who to blame now for totaling it against a county plow truck.
You freaking Tillman. We'll see if I ever take any other black and white pictures of you after that. Anyway,
Brad, do you have any deep dark secrets that you want to share with like other passions and stuff? You want to share those
questions?
I don't really want to know that.
PG, obviously. I mean, we're trying to keep this somewhat rated here.
Yeah.
Brad has a John Deere 0 turn.
It's got twills on it. Shut up.
No, you guys talk about F1 and I'd talk about Supercross.
Okay.
All right.
Like back in like Ricky Carmichael days or like today?
I was back then. I liked them back then. And I got away from it for a while and I'm starting to get back into it. I've kind of been watching Hayden Deegan. I don't know if I've
Yep.
He's impressive. I don't think he's no Jet Lawrence, but he's impressive.
Hayden, that's Hallie's little brother?
Yeah.
Okay.
Danger Dugan.
Yep.
So I actually have an old customer that his son is I think he's 17 now, but he's been down in Georgia and he goes, it's like a homeschool down in Georgia. But he's qualified for like Loretta Lynn several years now. I fully cannot wait for him to start racing like full on motocross type of thing. Like, I mean, he's in I don't know, the B class now. I can't wait for that because he's a local kid. And I mean, he's going to school down there because he gets done with school and he goes racing the rest of the day. I mean, it's practice. He lives in a like a cabin down there, and they practice when they're not in school, and it's going to be like a lot of fun. But I remember the days when Ricky Carmichael was like at his prime, and that was a lot of fun to watch.
Okay, can we pause from the non-pulling related things because that's very cool.
Yes. I didn't know that. Yeah, I knew Mick. I think Mickey cut Dad's first set of tires, if I'm not mistaken. Pretty sure that's right.
That's pretty cool.
Did you use a chainsaw? Cool. I've heard stories of that.
What?
You never heard? Oh, that was a whole thing. Yeah. That was
let's unpack that a little bit here. Somebody explain to me how you cut a pulling tire with a damn chainsaw.
We're talking about whenever you would start with ag tires.
Ag tires, take the whole lug off.
Okay.
Yeah. You sand it down.
So that was the rough cut. That was not the detail work.
Correct.
Because I mean, now that we've mentioned it,
well, I mean, they do wood carving, so why not?
I was going to say
now that we've mentioned it, Tyler Slaw is looking at McCullough chainsaws or Husky chainsaws or whatever with 8-inch bars.
It's a Milwaukee. It's a Milwaukee.
Just wondering if he can do it. No. Tyler has woken me up cutting tires.
We don't
7 o'clock.
We don't put 8-inch bars on McCullough saws. We put 8-foot bars on those.
You can't get the right angle.
But you're doing detail work.
Oh, I can be very detailed with mine, and I can do it from way back there.
He's still sitting in the recliner. Okay, let him be.
Right. Sure, that's fine. Tillman wants to go back and talk about things that are that sound like things other than a V10 or a Porsche inline 6.
My first car was
a part of me doesn't have the heart to tell him he's wrong, but I guess it just already said it.
I'm assuming he's talking about circle tracking.
It's got that's got to be
410 sprint car.
We get to hear that from our house.
Yeah, you guys aren't very far away from that track, are you?
Yeah, from Tri-State Speedway here.
Yeah.
We just had.
Can you hear that? Can you hear it on a clear night?
Oh yeah.
There was one night, me and a bunch of buddies were in the back of the farm, and all of a sudden we heard them race. We're like, "Hey, let's go check them out."
Just drive through the cornfield to the track then at that point, or what?
Ain't quite that close.
Okay, through the neighbors too. Okay.
Yeah. It's farther than you think for as clear as you can hear them.
Really?
Yeah. They say that like when we're pulling the mods at Evansville, they talk about how on the east side of Evansville, which is like 15 miles as the crow flies, they say you can hear them real clear over there.
I got 5 miles. How far the track is from our house?
Miles Krieger once told me that back in the day when Boyd's were still running the dyno, he could be washing dishes. He lived. I think
he's told me this.
Told me 15 miles away.
Yeah.
To the east, I think that's what he told me. But he said, I remember my windows rattling when they were making dyno hits with the mod motors on a clear fall night, or when it was clear and reasonably cool air temperature.
Yeah.
He said, yeah, I could hear it.
Yeah. He would send a text back to the shop. That sounded like a good one. What did it make?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Bill Petrie, he's 30 minutes from Topeka, and I mean, he said on a nice night, the winds are in the right direction. You could hear NHRA at his house.
I remember him saying that.
Which, I mean, he's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and for it to travel that far, like I know he's like 30 minutes away from the track, but still, there's a lot of trees and a lot of shit to go through for sound dampening material, I guess you could say. But
Nitro knows no bounds.
Nitro does know no bounds.
I was told that 2 nitros next to each other measure 2.2 on the Richter scale.
Right?
Probably believe that.
And, yeah, because I was talking about 4 wides in Vegas, and they're like, "Oh yeah, didn't you know 2 nitros next to each other measure 2.2 on the Richter scale? I was like, no. They said, yeah, so double that for 4. Yeah.
That's a wild number. That's every now and again, every year ish, that video circulates about real facts about top fuel cars. And it's, it's basically a video infographic, and it shows like the amount of fuel squirted in during a run and yada, 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 and all these interesting little factoids. That is not one of them. Somebody has fallen asleep at the switch, and they need to update that video.
Somebody needs to do that for tractor pulling.
I've sat in Broadbent and measured the sound. It's 137 decibels.
Yep.
I mean, it's off my phone, so it's not maybe the most accurate, but
it's not that far off.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be pretty close, but I don't know. I mean, I think it also depends on the interesting statistic of all that is you would think some of the higher horsepowers are louder, and they're actually not. It's some of those smaller engines that are, wrapping it out type of thing versus multi-engines that are doing more,
Mm-hmm.
So that was
RPM, size of pipe. There's a lot of things that go into. A lot of times it's the tone as much as the actual volume.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll still say up and down that the loudest thing I've ever heard in Broadbent, I got to go back to like 2000 time era to do it, was Jerry Stewart's Down and Dirty. I don't know why, but it absolutely thundered through that building.
Was that because of it had to be like Hemi
I don't know.
or something, right?
Triple Hemis back in those days, back in that time in the late 90s, early 2000s, really Hemis weren't as ubiquitous back then. A lot of Chevys.
Right.
His, for whatever reason, just screamed.
Whatever happened to that mod?
I don't know.
If you know, throw it in the comments.
Since we talked about drag racing, I know that like back in the day, there was a lot of tractor pulls that looked at drag racing for turbos, and now it's kind of gone back the other way. I mean, the guys are looking at tractor pulling and say, hey, you got to make a longer pass. What type of turbos? Have you guys paid attention to that through the years, or looked at like, the drag racing to look at turbos, see what they're doing, and kind of made changes because of that? No.
From a little bit I understand about drag racing, I feel like they're just starting to really get into the turbo game. I mean, I know there's been guys. There's been guys for a while that have been doing it, but as far as getting like,
take consideration, Precision Turbo has been a big name in drag racing for the longest time. You ain't heard of Precision Turbo and tractor pulling since like the late 2000s.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, Hart blew them out of the water back in 2010, and
never looked back.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, Columbus was
That's
turbos before.
That's also the difference between drag racing and pulling. Pulling, we build absolutely as much power as we can, and then we figure out how to put that to the track. Drag racing, you build as much power as you can, then you dial it back to what you need. And so they're not looking for every horsepower. It's controlling that power.
Yeah.
So there's a big difference. That's why, in my mind, the turbo technology in drag racing is just,
behind.
They don't push it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it helps too on the drag racing side that for the most part, I mean, I don't want to get into the esoteric notions of like weight breaks and shit, but I mean, for the most part, it's open turbo. If you need more power, you just bolt on a bigger one.
Yeah.
Sled pulling.
Well, and their weight
classes are charger limited. That's your
right.
your so.
Yeah, they're and like Brad said, they're wastegated. I mean,
oh yeah.
What's the somebody said, I can't remember if it was Dustin or Brandon told us today, or we heard through the grapevine, but I guess the reason why, because we asked that question, like, why are these guys putting these massive turbos on to build 35 pounds of boost? Like, you're like with wastegates, like why? And I guess if you can do it with a bigger turbo, it actually keeps cooler intake air temps. Was the rumor?
Yeah. Yep, you're not driving it near as hard, and because the faster you spin it, the harder you try to compress it, the hotter it gets. Yeah.
Yep.
You keep it into a much better duty cycle for the charger. You're only using maybe 40% of its capacity instead of 104.
And see, that's why anytime I hear that talk about drag racing, I'm like, we turned the boost down a little bit, and we took a couple of degrees of timing out of it, and we're hitting here click clacking on the computer and everything. At least when I go to the track, I'm going with for as best as I can, as much as I can get every time.
Every time.
All of the balls.
I don't know how much power it's going to take to go around that guy, but I know how much.
I know how much I'm going to use.
I'll never. It's funny because I'll never forget. Like, so 1320 video came out to Wisner, Nebraska last year. It's an outlaw hook, and them guys are drag racing guys, right? They walk into Doug Meisinger's hauler, and we're talking about boost pressure, and they were, I mean, on Scrappy, and I don't remember. I don't remember the number Doug gave out. Or,
350.
No.
Yeah, something like that.
No, it wasn't even that. Is like Fred talked about like, hey, we're used to this pressure, and Doug kind of chuckles. He goes, I'm at that one at the front charger.
That's right.
And and Fred just like stopped, like he was like didn't say anything. He's like, wait, what are you at? Like when it comes in, and then he said whatever number, and he's like, and actually we backed it down. It runs better when it's backed down. But it was just funny because like they gave this number they thought was like pretty high, and Doug's like, yeah, I'm at the front charger, and just kind of chuckled. And like that was a aha moment for them, and it was just. I'll never forget that. That was pretty funny to watch because again, like you said, you're using all of it, and them guys are like, we're gonna get it to where we think it'll work. So,
and Doug was the perfect person.
Oh yeah,
to deliver that message because Doug can deadpan with the best of them.
Oh, can he ever?
Yeah,
he just kind of, just kind of chuckles, and Scott Whitty and Fred, they're just like. What? He's like, well, yeah, we on a good pass we'll make, in excess of 325 pounds or whatever number he said. Yeah, and
a lot.
I'm still waiting for that video to come out.
And Fred just lost his damn mind. He's like, "Excuse me, what? You're making how much boost in a tractor?"
Yeah,
like I'm still waiting for that video to come out because I think it would just. I'll have like blow the minds of every drag racer out there. The fact that like, wait, what? We're doing what? And they're doing what? So
and the outtakes of that video would be even more priceless.
Oh yeah,
just to watch because Fred's head literally exploded like 4 times that day. I mean, it was hysterical to sit and watch. And I don't know if you guys watch any of the 1320 videos or any of the people watch it alone.
Not a lot.
Okay, so Fred is the guy that you often see. He's got a long goatee, always wears a flat bill. Mm-hmm. He's that guy. Fred's a good dude. I've known Fred for I don't know. I think I met Fred for the first time during COVID, because we had a speed shop. They had a shop party.
Were you there the year they were at UCC? That would have been before that.
Yeah, I don't know if Fred was there.
UCC real
Fred was there.
Well, let's set aside the sled pull portion.
Wait, which year? Let's classify this. Which year are you talking? The year that they let different trucks, or the year that it's every truck has to compete in all the events?
It was every truck in all the events. It was the year Levon Miller tried to put one of Shane Kellogg's junk motors in for the dyno, and it didn't. It couldn't light it.
Yeah, that was about 2017. That was the Sigma motor, and they kept that a secret. Nobody knew they were doing it, and then it spread like wildfire. I get a message up in the tower, hey, you got to go down to Fire Punk's pit right now. I'm like, why? All I was told was super stock motor. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I remember I was up there and everybody's like, oh my God, these injection pumps, blah, blah, blah. And I just kind of walked through. I'm like, yeah, it's a Columbus Diesel Sigma right there. I never drove one, but I've seen a lot of them. And everybody's kind of like, look around.
They threw it up on the dyno and everybody was backing up except for me and Andrew. We were like moths to flame, like, yeah, come on.
but to be fair, you guys would have done that regardless.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
power-driven diesel.
There's one I back away from.
A half a second from completely destroying a motor and sending pieces into orbit that are still orbiting right now.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew and Charles. Getting as close as we can.
Power-driven, that was That was mighty impressive. They launched a piston out of the truck so high it put a hole in the Lucas oil sign on top of the suites.
Mm-hmm.
Has
I
it
heard
been
stories
repaired
back
yet?
in the day of
That's been
pro
replaced
stock
now.
of pro stocks kicking rods, and they would clear the whole grandstand and stuff like that.
Good God.
Where the inner side shields came to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adam,
I think
well
Adam
played,
has-
sir.
He might have some PTSD about that one.
Adam might have some PTSD about a few things that happened at UCC on multiple occasions.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
He's skinny and he's short. He's a small target to hit.
This is true. But he was also well within the blast range, and he might have had some hair singed off of his head when Tony...
That's why he always wears a cap. Didn't you know? Like he's always got a cap.
He
on.
might have melted the cap to his head a little bit when Tony decided he was going to light the last minute on fire. Tony, for watching.
He was watching earlier.
I know he was. I saw that little baited comment.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about blast range.
No.
I think the only person who's been closer to a rapid disassembly of an engine than me is maybe Mr. Howell, because he was on the flag sticks.
Yeah.
I might be able to actually compete with that. Remember when Brenda Shanklin launched the motor out of the Black Sheep?
Yes.
In Ellsworth?
Yep.
I was closer than any other cameraman. I was close enough that Jesse's video and
Weird
photos
flex, but okay.
didn't actually capture it.
No offense, you're a bigger target than Adam is.
Do with that what you will. The scariest part of that to me, and that actually taught me a lesson, kind of a powerful one at that.
He got a longer lens. Just saying.
Well, there's that, but I didn't do that until like a month and a half ago. No, when I shot that, I was shut your pie hole, asshat. I was so close, but and Cody will probably back me up on this, and maybe Charles too. We get so tunnel vision-y, like legit tunnel vision. I really didn't register that motor had left the chat until my left eye caught it in my peripheral vision. Like I'm shooting, I'm looking through the viewfinder with my right eye, and I was focusing so hard to make sure that I was catching things in frame and yada, 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 that it took me a split second to realize that, oh, there's a motor. It's flying through the air. Wow. I've never seen that before. It was wild.
The scary part is, like, when I shoot, I close my left eye because I'm looking through the right eye.
Oh, so you're really screwed.
Yeah, and there was a pass that I took a shot of, and I'm not going to say where, but it was coming. I was right on the line type of thing because it's short networking space there, and I'm right on the line, and it's coming across, and then it starts cross-tracking, and it's coming right at me. And the photo I've got is, I mean, it is in your face right in front of you, and I'm as short on the barrel as I can, and I've got the video, and it's coming at me, and everybody's like, oh, that's a great picture. I was like, yeah, it wasn't till the run was done that realizing, like, if something happened with the engine, the hitch, or anything, like, I wouldn't be here today.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, I mean, there's a lot of that stuff that makes you kind of question, like, where you're standing at some points. But, I mean, you get comfortable and where you're at, and then you start moving, and all of a sudden it's like, yeah.
Yeah. I used to crowd the line, but that ship bomb kind of, I don't get as close as I used to.
Mark and I I remember a close call that Mark and I had together.
I know exactly where you're talking.
Well, all right, finish the story. Where?
Is it Rock Valley when you guys were sitting on? Yep. You guys are both sitting on, and I got the cute photo of you two sitting together on the cross walk over the railing. Yep.
Almost. But yeah, it was Taylor Van Beek, it was when he was running the Super, and I think it was when it was called Revered. And the funny part was that Aaron Doctor was there, and that tractor was running Pro Pullers at the time, and it still probably is. But Aaron had mentioned to me that something about they were trying something different because like the natural rotation of the motor pushed the tractor to the right. And so he said, we did something with the tires and we changed air pressure. So it should work and it should kind of keep it pointed more or less straight. Both Mark and I have photos that were blurry as all hell that we would never post, but they would scare all of you because, I mean, if we edited them and posted them, I mean, it looks as if we're about to be run over by a diesel Super. And Taylor has had a tremendous amount of fun poking fun at us, you know, about that and how he tried to run us over one night.
Steering
and
things
then,
back.
And then there's Tiff, who puts us all to shame.
Yeah, that well, I think was it 2 episodes ago we showed that video.
Yeah,
No, it was either 2 or back when we interviewed them.
Something like that. But yeah, no, she just stands there the whole time, and it's like the wheel stops within like 5 feet of her, and she's still videoing standing there. And I was like, "You should have moved." And she's like, "I got the shot."
Yeah. So I mean, It was like you guys were probably there the night or the afternoon. It might have been it was the first time they ran Light Pros at Farm Show when Alan Cook spun a wheel off. You remember this?
Yeah.
Saturday
Yeah.
after. Okay.
I remember seeing the pictures.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
And I remember Dave Bennett talking about how the cameraman didn't flinch.
Yeah.
I don't remember who was running the camera that day, but he legit didn't. The wheels rolling right towards him, and Tiff pretty much did the very same thing outdoors at an IPL hook. I think it was IPL. The video was outstanding. And when we all questioned her sanity, she's like, the driver and I mean, we made eye contact. We had a moment. We knew it was good. And I'm like, okay, I wouldn't do that. And she's like, well, yeah, you know, and then it comes out that she's an adrenaline junkie. And yeah.
I'll tell you what, one thing I tell people that I find very interesting, and I'll be curious to see what happens the first time I get on this pro, the first several times. But like I talked about my first pass on the tractor earlier, and I got to the end, and I remember Dad asking me, like, you know, what happened? Did you hit a brake? And I was, I don't know. I don't know. I got the green flag, and now I'm here. Like, like that was it. And it's kind of hilarious how now, like, I'll have whole what should be like a couple minute conversations with myself while going down the track in a 12-second pass. Like, one of the first times I remember, like, really vividly is Rockwell, Iowa, the second night after he lit it on fire. I'm pulling hardcore, and like I come
Way to
off
go, Brad.
Yeah. Just got to throw that in there real quick.
Just got to throw that in there. Way to go, Brad.
We're not, yeah. But I come off the clutch, and I was like, all right, we're worried about front end weight. So I come off the clutch, and the front end comes up. And I'm like, all right, front end's coming up. Front end's getting a little high. Kevin Masterson talked about how when his front end gets high, he hits both brakes at the same time to kind of deaden it. But I'm on the bullpen. So, like, my foot comes up, and I was like, but I'm on the bull pinion, not on the outboard. So my brakes are stouter. But maybe it would still work if I just hit them gently. But maybe it would upset the whole tractor. Oh, shit, we just hit the wheel bars anyway. And then I remember looking over and be like, oh, there's Ryan. Like, I remember like watching go by. And I was
That's
like, there's
insane.
Ryan. Like, it was like this is happening so fast. You get to the track, you're like, yeah, I kind of thought about hitting the brakes. And I thought maybe I shouldn't. And I thought maybe I should. But then I decided not. And that guy was taking a picture. And I drifted kind of left. And like the adrenaline's still there. I guess you just learn to process it better.
So what I've heard out of this is we need a Slow Pro action camera from Mark Ham, a live mic in the helmet, and we want to sync the two together.
I talk to you past. You can't mic me up.
You talk?
Oh, I talk mid pass.
Yeah,
really?
That's what I'm saying. I want to hear that.
I'm sorry, you wouldn't be able to put it on camera on the internet.
I don't care. It's for my own entertainment.
Brad, we could charge more for it.
I'm fine with that. I get hyped up in the seat if I know I'm on a good one.
I just picture like the slow-mo of, like it's like the Flash type of thing where everything's slow-mo and you're like, oh, hey, and you're just like, barely.
Oh, hey, there goes
like,
Ryan.
Oh, there's that. Yeah. Like that's what I was picturing the whole pass.
Oh my God.
Down.
That would be such a great video.
I didn't verbalize all of that stuff. That was more internal.
We're going to need you to. We're going to need you to. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I have a nice little mic. It's about like yay big. We'll stick it in there. It'll be fine.
And actually, you know what? If you really don't want to carry the mic,
we can do a lav mic too. I'm going to go with that.
We don't even have to do that. He can do a voiceover. All we really need is the slow-mo. And he can do a voiceover and play the conversation back in his head. I mean, he pulled in Rockwell one time, and it was back during COVID. And he remembers what he saw, and he remembers what he said to himself.
Yeah.
We should be able to get a voiceover out of this.
We should wake him up for his first time in the pro, because it might be just like the Budweiser frog in the hydroplane where all you hear is,
I was about to say the first time. Oh my God. Actually, it's going to be, don't forget the cooler. Don't forget the cooler. Don't forget the cooler. Don't forget the cooler. He's going to get to 4,000. Forget the cooler.
Yeah. You need like an RPM.
Suddenly you hear at the 75 foot. Oh shit! I forgot the cooler.
Yeah.
And then the tractor just kind of go boink 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 boink.
But you probably like say it out loud. You just don't realize that you're saying it. You just think it's internally.
If it's conscious thought, like if it's like full thoughts, I'm 99% sure it was all internal. But like if I'm on one, like if at 200 foot the front end's up and we're packing, it's not internal no more.
I had a Polar that I took a picture of, and his eyes were closed, like mid pass, wheelie, and everything. And he's like, I swear I had my eyes closed, but Mom said I didn't. And I was like, here's proof right here. Like your eyes are closed. And I've got like 4 photos of you with your eyes closed on every pass. And he's like, oh, damn.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. I run my visor down now, but like my eyes.
That's a good way to fight that.
Yeah, my eyes will be like this because I won't blink. No matter. I mean, it takes something pretty big for me to like blink mid pass.
Yeah, no, his eyes are definitely closed. I'm like, what are you doing, man? Like that's the longest blink of your life.
Just along for the ride. Mm-hmm.
I tease Kevin Masterson about that every chance I get because I tell him that I have of all the by now it has to be hundreds of photos of Kevin that I've shot because I figure I take between 8 and 10 shots on any given pass and in some cases more. And I mean I've been shooting Kevin and Don until he passed. Since 20, I think the first time I ever shot them was 2014 at Mount City. I've told Kevin that I have never taken a picture of him blinking or with his eyes closed. And I stand by that. I do not think he is capable of blinking. It's just this.
Mm-hmm. He's laser focused, man.
The likes of which you have never seen before, Brad. I mean, I've got a few photos, and I'll bet Cody does too.
He'll stare a hole through your soul.
He will, not only will he stare through your soul, but he will probably kill you in the process.
Oh God!
I mean, the look of anger on his face. And I know it's just concentration. I mean, I've got pictures of some of the funniest men and women that I've ever seen before with what appears to be the most amazing resting bitch face ever on the pulling track. And it's just the way we are. It's the same with Michael Jordan and his tongue out when he's playing hard.
The photo I took of him going past I was standing next to the board at the Wagler Fall Pole, and he went by me. He's still probably doing 10 miles an hour, and he just burned a hole through that board next to me. And it's just the total vibe was, I'm going to win this pole, and then I'm going to jump out of the seat, and I'm going to go knock that thing over.
Yes. Or I will just stay in the seat and just light it on fire with my laser eyeballs.
Yeah.
Oh, that's there's enough pictures. I don't know if you do. I'm a flag stalker. I'm watching that leader cone come out.
Oh, the flag stalker photos are great.
Yeah.
I've got pictures of Don. I've got pictures of Don Masterson literally like straining his neck, looking over his shoulder as he's driving past the flag in Hillsborough.
Yeah, make good and sure I'm past it here.
Yeah, I watched myself do that in a video I clicked on YouTube not long ago. I'm like 10 feet past it. I'm still back there looking at it, making sure.
We're not letting out until we get it a couple inches ahead of it.
That's right.
Yes. 100%.
You asked if I'd ever drove a pro stock before, if we'd ever drove pro stocks before. It was actually that same 2017 Hillsborough, because the Parks tires were kind of making, they came out and they didn't really work, and then they made a resurgence. And Don had a set he put on the toy, and they were up there, and we had won. That was when we pulled the noon sessions. Limited Pro pulled Friday noon, and then Saturday noon. So we pulled the noon session, and we had the tractor loaded back up. We were sitting there, and Don came putting over in his gator or mule, whatever he was in. And he was like, "So, what do you think about them?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know. They seem to be working pretty good. What do you think?" And he made a comment, and I know he was just joking, but he was like, "Oh, I think you got these things pretty figured out. Maybe I just ought to let you drive this thing." And I was like, "Oh, I'll do it, Don." I was like, "I'll even wear Dad's black fire suit so I don't look dumb on a green tractor. I'll do it." And I think he wasn't ready for how invested I got in that. He was
So where are you guys what's first pull this year?
We're supposed to be at the Pullers Championship.
Okay.
But and we're not completely ruling it out, but farming isn't going as smoothly as we would like, and the tractor still needs some work. And the tractor was sitting here ready to rock and roll, and all I had to do is, load it in the trailer and go, do one thing. But we got some things, we still got to work on it. And I'm not saying if it dries up, we could get the crop knocked out, we'd have time to work on it. But more than likely, it could potentially be Shipshewana, Indiana.
Are you guys coming to Mountain City this year?
on the schedule.
Yep. Well, our goal is we're hitting all the PPL hooks, and then we really want to go to Bowling Green. Place we've never pulled is Bowling Green, Ohio.
That was one of the questions I wasn't going to let you off without asking was what track have you always wanted to pull at but you've never pulled? And Shane Hunt has been vying since 2 hours ago to get you guys to Hopkinsville. So set his mind at ease. Otherwise, he won't sleep tonight.
Are they having big pros at Hopkinsville? Because Mid-South took the 5-0 rule, I thought.
If not, Shane will write an exception to get you in because he wants to see you there. So
I'll run against 5-0s, but
I bet you would.
I'll bet you would.
So how are you guys splitting up driver duties? You've talked about that at all?
We wrestle.
Wrestle? Like arm wrestle or like wrestle? Like...
Brad's used to, for like when I graduated high school and Brad was still in his skinny phase, he not that he's not skinny now, but you know what I mean.
I'm skinny fat, Brad. It's okay. I'm with you.
I didn't realize how that came out until I said it. But there was a while there where I was substantially bigger than him, and he would always make that joke, and people would, are you serious? Like, maybe.
He's 6'4", I'm 5'10". He weighs 280, I'm 220.
265, sir.
It's a low center of gravity, Brad. Use it to your advantage.
Also starting varsity offensive lineman for Gibson Southern in his sophomore year.
Yeah,
sophomore year in high school. Yeah, I don't beat him. I can't do it.
I was waiting for you to say, but I wrestled in you know.
No,
I'm just saying, like,
not
this
athletic at all. My job was go to school, come home, and get to work. That was what happened to me.
I'm just saying I have 2 wireless mics. I mean, if we're gonna play the odds here, like we could make some good content out of this. Not only in the in the helmet there, like
I'll tell you what, me on the sidelines while Brad's pulling, that might be an interesting mic'd up too.
That-
I know I mutter
okay.
some stuff.
we can Mountain City, we can make this happen.
You and Ference Vey. Those, because I've watched you on the sidelines, and I've watched him on the sidelines. Yeah, Cody.
I would
how
just
many
leave
wireless
the
mics?
the entire time.
It's got like a 10-hour battery. Like, we're good to go.
100%.
Bring it on,
Can we do that?
Mountain City, let's go.
I want total control of all audio, because sometimes I mutter some things to myself that I don't really mean. But
In order to get control of the audio, you will have to buy Cody's Patreon account and on his YouTube channel, and that will cost you a lot of money.
Which he is now on the other screen opening promptly.
Yes, exactly. When you hear the fingers on the keyboard. Yeah.
I honestly thought Charles was gonna be like, no, correction, OnlyFans. I thought you were getting ready to say that one, but
I mean,
hey, they sponsor a dragster car. I have a picture of it. It's on the side of the dragster car, and I was like, that's interesting.
Let's get back to pulling, please.
Okay,
hey, $20 is $20.
There is a truck. There is a.
If they wait, if they offered to sponsor your tractor, you turn them down?
Absolutely.
Good for you guys. There is a truck there's a Pro Stock Gas 4x4. I saw this with my own 2 eyeballs. That's called OnlyFans. It's a Missouri Pro Stock Gas 4x4. I didn't believe it. I actually messaged the guy who was John Holloman. I sent him a message. I said, "Is that for real?" He's like, "No, it's not for real. They're not sponsoring it." But he thought it was funny, and it got you to ask me the question. So apparently it worked. And I thought, I hate the fact that the guy was right. But.
Well, we kept you guys way past what we thought we were going to.
Yeah.
Back to how we go ahead.
Take a look at your watch. What time is it?
10:10.
I won't get to 10 o'clock.
But seriously, Mountain City.
Charles told you it'll go faster than you think. He was right.
Mountain City, like, we got some stuff we can do. We'll preface this as the audio is probably only going to be as long as the tractor coming up, and like, you know what I mean? Like, it's got to be video, because like if you just post a photo and audio to it, it's not real exciting. So I'm just saying,
if anybody watched the No Practice podcast last night, you saw Russell Hildenbrand talking about how, these guys, they're having 30-second conversations, right before, as the tractor's hooked to the sled, and what are they talking about and everything else. And I'm sitting there like, well, sometimes I think of a lot of stuff last minute. Like,
all the way from the skills to the pass and everything, we'll be fine. And I'm probably not going to come find you for like 3 or 4 passes. So after we'll have some good audio. It'll be good. I'm excited. This will be fun.
Also, Rusty is trying to throw shade.
Hey,
Rusty, I'm glad you tuned in, buddy.
Tractor drives itself.
There you go.
We wanted to come head out your way with the bean planer, but it was too wet.
How far is he from you guys? He's not far, is he?
15 minutes.
That's what I thought.
Off the road from him. Yeah.
That's what I thought. Esden says that that if we decide we're going to mic up pullers, that he and Danny Man will keep it interesting.
Danny would keep it interesting. That's for sure.
Right.
I think if we're going to do that to that level, we need 3 mics and have a sister on too.
I was going to say, yeah.
100%. And we actually owe them.
Ellie.
We owe those guys a podcast. I promised them one. I asked them. I asked Ellie at Shipshawana this year. I said, would you be comfortable enough with us to do a podcast where you and your brother and maybe dad get on and talk a little trash and bullshit and gossip and lies with all of us? I 100% expected her to say no. She said, sure, I'm in. When are we doing it? Mm-hmm. And here we are. Planting is getting started, if not partially over. And we
30 minutes later.
Yes, a few minutes later. So
that was perfect.
Yeah. So Esden, we owe you and Danny Man and Ellie a podcast. We will take you up on that. So
I'll tell you what, the post pass banter can be pretty interesting too. One of my favorite stories. Brad's gonna get mad at me.
After you just called him when he was skinnier.
back to Hillsboro, Wisconsin. He's still thinking. So
we can see the smoke pouring out of his ears.
Before hardcore, I was driving Dad's tractor on Saturday, and I can't remember what the situation was, and like something happened with the guy in front of me, and I got kind of flustered, and I was still pretty young at the time. And John Mears was like, "Come on, hurry up!" And I was like just now starting the tractor and everything else, and I got myself all worked up. And the whole time, we didn't know what to do as far as track. And he had talked about how on the super farm, arm years, that one time they moved left and it worked. And so they're like, all right, we're going to go left. We're going to go left. We're going to go left. So the whole time, I'm like, all right, we're going to kind of start center. I want to go left. Well, I get up there, back up to the sled, and Brad gets on the tractor and he's like, all right. He's like, just make sure you hang to that right side. And I was like, okay. I guess him and Dad saw something. I don't know. They were up here. I was back there. Okay. So I bring the tractor up, let out the clutch, basically dump the clutch because I'm off bluster, just have a horrible pass, and it takes me a little left, and I actually braked it back right, going towards the right side, and just had a horrible pass. I think we got like 18th out of 20 that night.
The thing was missing too, wasn't it?
Was that we had a cracked valve? Yeah, it was not our best pass. And so they unhooked me, and I drive off the end of the track, and this, that, and the other. And Brad looks at me, and he goes, "You went to the wrong side of the track." And I looked, I said, you told me to go right. I said, when I was hooked to the sled, you told me to go right. And he thought about it for me. He goes, well, yeah, but I was turned around. I meant my right, not yours.
Charles, I sent you a photo that is highly relevant right now. Please post it immediately.
Yeah. Not one of my finer moments.
So
this is one of Brad's teachable moments. This is what happens.
I'm pretty sure I was just up there talking to him. It's so loud in there, I was yelling.
And the body language from Andrew is just like, shut the fuck up.
Because that is Farm Show 22.
That's what he was checking on me.
That was
Andrew's just sitting there like loud noise.
That was 23. That was the good year. That was not the huh?
You can tell the tractor's leaning to the right.
Yeah, it is.
Wait
by the way, there's
right. It is. That is 22.
There's the bigger Ether can too, by the way.
Because he hopped up on the tractor. He's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm not happy, but I'm okay."
Yeah.
Because I always stand at the starting line. There's no way I'd have got down there to the end before they backed him in the corner.
Yeah, that's not a John Deere Ether can, Charles.
Nope, that's the big one. That's Lucas. That's the Lucas Oil one.
Yeah. Well, guys, we have kept you a lot longer than we intended to. Thank you guys so much. We really do appreciate it. And yeah, it is. Is it still raining over there?
Talk about as much tractor pulling as I hope.
I don't think it's raining yet, but they're calling for rain. I don't know if it's supposed to hit it tonight or tomorrow night.
Well, see, Andrew, we did that on purpose because now we can invite you back for a second round.
This is true.
And that second round is going to come, God willing, and the creek don't rise, after the first year of the two of you in the Pro Stock. So after harvest is over and you guys take a break and relax a little bit, you're going to come on with us, and we're going.
So, how was your first year of Pro Stock? Enter that meme of Chris Farley and the other guy with the hair all blown back.
I was picturing
keep that in mind. Keep that in mind, because at least one of you has hair, so you can actually like recreate that.
It's getting pinned back.
No.
I'm not taking my hat off.
There's some there, but not much.
I thought you were gonna say the two of you on a moped to the way the tractor pull, like, or like Dumb and Dumber heading on the tractor pull, like hey, we're going places.
Yeah,
that's the preseason. That's
preseason.
It's afterwards that you
that would
get the other one.
I'm just thinking that'd be a great intro to some mic'd up pulling. Just saying.
my goal for the year is just make respectable laps. I hope it stays together, as reasonable as you can expect the Pro Stock to stay together. I just want to put a whole season together of, just solid laps. I feel like if we can land one top 3 at one pole, I feel like we'll be good.
Thank you.
We're wrong boat pattern now, Kevin.
He can have them back now.
They were green. They are still green. We thought about painting them, and Dad was like, we don't own these.
That's funny. And for the record, I don't think any of us on the sidetrack side of this podcast texted Kevin to get him on to make that comment.
I did not. No.
I did not. I will put my hand on a Bible. Cody is keeping quiet. That concerns me a little bit, but whatever.
No, I was shaking my head. No.
Journalistic integrity, a hallmark here at Sidetracked.
Mm-hmm.
But no, seriously, guys, thank you so much.
This has been fun.
We've had a blast. We've wanted to do this for a long ass time. I mean, we talked about. I think I put the bug in your ear about this Friday night at Farm Show this year.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the only time I saw you guys there.
Yeah. That was the only time I was there.
Yeah. And so thank you so much. We really, really appreciate it. And you do have a standing invite.
Yep. You do.
And we will hit you up after harvest. God willing, and the creek don't rise, I get back out there, and we're going to take a few more laps in the combine until we break it, like we did last year.
He gets in, we make half a round, and the unload auger chain breaks. I said, "Well, Ryan, we're done."
Oh, we made more than a half a round. We made at least 2 laps before it happened. But
you can tell the rest of it's okay if you don't want him to come break shit. I'm just saying.
Why do I hang out? Why do I hang out with him?
I don't know.
Me neither.
Been trying to figure it out for years.
Last question that we do need to ask. Sponsors, anybody you want to pimp, anyone you want to, shout out, throw in your socials so we can follow you guys. I don't know. I don't think Addicted has its own page, does it?
Addicted Motorsports has
We have
a
a
Facebook page.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Addicted
We don't
Motorsports.
post on it very often like we should, but we do have a page.
Well, we might kick
can't
you
all
in
have
the
a
ass
Ralphie.
about
We
that to
can't
make
all have
you
a
do
PR
it.
guy.
Well, you know what? Kevin, can they borrow Ralphie for a little bit? Just,
I don't want to know the type of stuff Ralphie would post on our page.
Oh, it might be fantastic content.
Well, I bet it'd be hilarious for somebody.
Oh,
you would have a permanent set of microphones clipped to you guys the entire time. I'm just saying.
Maybe, but
that would make a great YouTube channel. I'm just saying, 2 guys on a tractor type of thing. Like that would make a great YouTube channel of like the stuff behind the scenes. Like you guys are looking for an extra source of income. That would be fun.
Mm-hmm.
I've always thought about, like, not necessarily me, because I'm not a good enough personality and we're not interesting enough, but like I've always thought about why there isn't a better tractor pulling YouTube channel, and I know everyone does need a Ralphie.
100%.
But I know Elsing's up there in Wisconsin. They're doing more than probably anybody. I think the problem is there's so much secrecy, and not secrecy, but like, I don't want to put my setup out there, and I've kind of figured some stuff out. Like I don't want to put it on YouTube or drag racing and things like that. Everything's a little more. You're not hunting for horsepower because you're turning it down anyway. So who cares if they see what your engine setup is?
It works for them though too, because Emily's cuter than both of you and both of them.
Well,
You're not wrong.
And Elsing. I mean, Avery, Mason, and Greg.
But
no,
I agree with you. Like that would be fun, but I think with what you two guys have is it's brother versus brother banter back and forth, and I think you guys could have a pretty you're going to take the time to do it, yeah, but I think you guys could have a lot of fun doing it, and putting a video together of the banter back and forth of in the pits, in the staging lanes, have the mic up down the pass in the hall, like everything, like. You guys have a pretty good banner back and forth. I'm just saying,
well, that sucked. 2 hours for this.
Yeah.
Like
why the hell did you think that was a good idea?
The only other YouTube idea that we've had is a buddy. He cuts trees for a living, and he's like, man, you ought to see the shit we do during the day and the shit that goes on. And he's like, you ever want a part-time gig? We're going to start a YouTube channel, and we're going to call it Treetards. So. And he's like, you just have to follow us around with a camera, and we're going to call it Treetards. So, I'm just saying, we have ideas here. We can make something happen.
Wow. And on that note,
and on that bombshell,
it's time to end. Thanks, guys. Thank you guys for watching. Holy crap, we've been on for almost 3 hours. Wow, that's we don't know. I mean, you're never going to get that time back, folks. You really ought to do a better job of prioritizing. But we're glad that you chose to spend it with us. We really are. So, any last words of wisdom from the rest of us in the peanut gallery?
I'm out.
You're out.
Keep your stick on the ice.
There you go. Guys, hope you get the crop in. Really hope you can get the Pullers Championship. That's all we got. So we'll be back in 2 weeks.
And punch him in the mouth.
There you go. We have some thoughts on who we might have the next week, but we're not going to share them with you yet. So we're just going to end the stream. Brad and Andrew, stick around. We'll debrief for whatever it is, BS for a few more minutes. So, Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.
Thank you.